You get some Hannah Montana, you get some multi-hour long Jordan Fringe video talking about it. What I'm trying to say is, you get the best of both worlds. Hannah Montana was this moment in time that really can't be compared to many things out there. Miley Cyrus was and is a staple in the entertainment space, and where a majority of us know her from was her rise as one of Disney's most well-known, highly profitable characters that ever graced the Disney Channel, Hannah Montana. With this show and all-around vibe coming out in the middle of the aughts, it really helped usher in and cement the next era of both musical-based content and legit musical stars building off of their shows or shows that they're a part of. Not only did Disney have a hit show on their hands and all of the merch, accessories, or Hannah Montana branded things that come with that, but they also had a musical artist under their control, becoming this larger-than-life icon that would sell countless CDs, sell out arenas on tour, and of course, in the end, fill up theater seats once it was time for Hannah Montana to have a theatrical film. While things with Miley and Disney ended in a very public separation, there is no denying that she created one of the most influential characters in 2000s pop culture. Plus, just look at her now. Things are going great for Miley with hit album after hit album. Today, I wanted to take a look back at the series, Hannah Montana, to really relive this phenomenon. From the show, to the music, to the stuff behind the curtains, and more. So, chill it out, take it slow, it's time to rock out the show. Welcome to the secret world of Hannah Montana. Hannah Montana was a show all about living a secret double life, one where you're just a regular girl going to school, having friends, and doing chores. And with the other one, you're a world-famous pop star that lives the glamorous life of being beloved in the public eye, as you sell out stadiums and wear bougie clothes. Miley Stewart, played by Miley Cyrus, does this so that she can have a chance at a normal life that isn't surrounded by cameras or fans, wanting that average everyday life fitting in with her friends and not seen differently because she is this massive celebrity. And all it takes is a blonde wig. Who knew? Maybe that's been my secret all along as well. Or not. In the show, her father, Robbie Ray, played by her real-life father, Billy Ray Cyrus, was a famous country music star, so we can find that excuse for the nice house on the beach by the father having this legacy, which in real life he did, with an achy-breaky heart. But beyond this show, he would also find a random resurgence teaming up with Lil Nas X for the song Old Town Road. In the lore of the show, this family, which consists of Miley, her father, and her brother Jackson, played by Jason Earls, all had moved to Malibu, California from Tennessee, adding in that country vibe to the show as being so stand out on the beaches of California. His music career ended once his wife passed away, and he wanted to make sure that he was there for their kids to raise them right, bringing them to California to help Miley pursue her musical career, as he would manage her thanks to him already knowing the business. The big struggle in the show is that Miley works on hiding her double life from anyone in her personal life, including her closest friend. Well, at least at first. We see all these kids, even at school, being fans of the pop artist Hannah Montana, with no clue that she technically goes to their school and oftentimes is bullied because she isn't with the popular crowd. Truly the best of both worlds, of course. The first person outside of the family to learn about her secret is her best friend Lily, played by Emily Osment. And after making a promise to never let this secret out and be introduced to this side of her life, she also dons an alter ego when hanging out with Hannah in the public eye as Lola. The other friend of these two that rounds out their trio is Oliver, played by Mitchell Musso, who ends up learning about this too at a later moment and also gets a fun fake name, Mike Standley III. But just as important as the storylines that we follow this trio through is of course the B-plots of most of these episodes involving Jackson, working with Rico Suave, yes, that's his name, at a food shack at the beach. Rico is the perfect maniacal dude that only exists to torture Jackson in various ways, and he's always trying to impress girls in higher grades than him, as he himself would skip grades in school for just being really smart. So mix in smarts with a lot of money and being rejected by women all the time and made fun of for your height, you can see where that evil factor starts coming in, starting off as a smaller side character that becomes a larger player for the rest of the series beyond that. The show being a sitcom would hit all of the natural sitcom beats along with all of the cheesiness that comes with the format. But this show had music. I mean, the theme song telling us about the best of both worlds, cluing us into the major struggles of living a double life, only has me questioning, when she performs this song and everything, is no one looking into the lyrics that to a T describe that this persona she has is fake and only for show, and that there is a completely different other side to her that lives a regular life? No? Just me? Okay then. Disney as a corporation was really starting to understand what was making their network channel, the Disney Channel, such a huge hit with the audiences it was capturing. Once they realized that they were pretty good at blending in the musical side of things with their programming, they knew that this formula was something they wanted to keep replicating. Lizzie McGuire has been notably cited as the first real success they found with this, but more so in a way where Hilary Duff's music was used to help promote the show, and in some cases the other way around. Where things got interesting was with the group The Cheetah Girls, which consisted of Adrienne Bailon, Kylie Williams, Sabrina Bryan, and Raven Simone, that would tie into a Disney Channel original film series, massive CD releases, and of course touring, amongst all of the merch, clothing line, perfume, video games, books, dolls, and more that came along with becoming this huge jackpot for Disney. But what made it more lucrative for Disney was that they created this group for the sole purposes of fully controlling every aspect of it. Disney was ready for their next big hit, having multiple pop stars being churned out left and right, and doing their best to have them be larger than the last. To get to Hannah Montana, we have to look back to That's So Raven, a show co-created by the eventual same co-creator of Hannah Montana. Originally, the idea was to slip in a backdoor pilot within an episode of That's So Raven, Going Hollywood, to make a spin-off a lot easier for audiences to jump aboard. Here with the actor Allison Stoner, who would play the child star of a TV show called Better Days, which would also be the name of the show overall, and have to struggle with going to a regular school, as well as possibly considering this new show to be somewhat of a spin-off to Lizzie McGuire as well. But these ideas would evolve more so into what the show we know today is. So many people were considered for the main lead role of this project. Even the artist JoJo was looked at for this role, but she ended up rejecting it. When Miley came into audition, she originally was reading for the best friend role in the show, but they thought she was talented enough to audition for the main role, Chloe Stewart. But for being too young for the role at the time at age 11 and being up against 1,000+ applicants, Miley was rejected. When she went back home, she would send in tape after tape of her musical talent, trying to force their hand to reconsider and not just be based on her age and height, but on her talent. This would work, and it was a good deal. Not only did they get a musical talent with their lead actor, but their father in the show would bring them Billy Ray Cyrus to fill in that role, something we will touch on way later in this video. But overall, sweet deal. With the father and the daughter aspect, the two would have a good and comfortable chemistry on set. Miley would end up as Miley Stewart, and the rest was history. But Disney has a certain rule book to follow. It wasn't just about being talented or the most promising. Disney was a brand, and they needed a level of maturity to come with this role as well. They were no nonsense. Whoever was to play in this role needed to come off cool to the demographics it was aiming for, but also be parent friendly. The biggest thing they demanded was someone who wouldn't be plastered in the tabloids, someone who can handle all of the pressure thrown at them with maturity, as they have brand promises to keep. While things seemed to be great at first and Miley extremely excited, but having a level of nervousness stepping so firmly into the spotlight, the show would move forward into production in 2005. Come March 24th, 2006, Hannah Montana would officially premiere on the Disney Channel, with it being the largest premiere at the time in the channel's history with 54 million viewers. It's clear to see that Hannah Montana, just like the music, was going to be a big hit.
Get ready to rock, because Hannah's finishing her sound check. Let's plug back in to Hannah Montana on Disney Channel.
In the beginning of the series, things seem pretty great. Miley is living her secret life as Hannah Montana, and everyone from her life or just in general is none the wiser. But when Lily, who is a fan of Hannah Montana, but really who isn't in this show for the most part, buys herself and Miley a ticket to see Hannah Montana in concert, she has to get out of going because of, well, the obvious reasons. So a bit disappointed and sad, Lily ends up bringing Oliver to the concert instead. But now we see backstage Hannah in her dressing room giving her a moment to be Miley, until Lily proves that she's a little too much of a fan and sneaks in. As much as Miley tried to hide that it was her, the facade was up. Miley then has to explain to Lily that she is Hannah Montana and all the reasons why she didn't want this secret out there, and why, as her best friend, she didn't even want her to know as well. After a few moments, she is pretty excited that her best friend is Hannah Montana, especially once Miley shows off all the fun parts of being a major pop star. Another side effect that comes with that is having a brother that wants to use you for who you are to get free tickets for her upcoming show so that he can take a date proving that he knows Hannah. But aside from Jackson doing what Jackson does, Lily thinks that Miley should be open about her secret, and it would change so much for the better. But Miley doesn't want that, causing this to become sort of an argument. Miley feels that because of having this secret Hannah aspect to her, that this is all Lily will see her as now, and wants the benefits that comes with that over just being Miley's friend, especially in conversation when Lily called her Hannah instead of Miley. But not long after, both girls talk about it and Lily apologizes for her overexcitement and promises that her secret is safe with her, and they hug it out. Testing this out at school when the popular girls Amber and Ashley were making fun of them, where Lily is responsible with her secret and Miley was able to use a real Hannah Montana owned item that was given to Lily to cause a stir. Also, I always forget that Corbin Bleu was a guest star on this show. Can't wait for my High School Musical video. Now that the secret is known by Lily, she wants to be with Miley when she's Hannah, giving herself her own alter ego of Lola, but there is someone in the friend group who is clueless, and that would be Oliver, aka the locker man who can open up any locker by acting like he's the Fonz and that the lockers are a jukebox. Oliver has this crush on Hannah Montana, definitely making this pretty awkward, so both Miley and Lily try to get him interested in other girls out of fear that if he were to find out who Hannah really was, that it might mean he likes her as Miley, and she doesn't want that for the friend group. But when the other girls don't interest him, then why not make him not interested in her? The plan is simple. We put both Hannah and Oliver together, but Hannah will be everything that he hates or heavily dislikes, like extreme gum chewing, but to no avail. Oliver is looking past all of this because she's Hannah Montana, the love of his life, until she takes off her disguise in one final effort to show Oliver that the girl he thinks Hannah is really one of his best friends, Miley, causing him to pass out and for Miley to have a chance to explain to him when he wakes up that this is all a secret and he promises to keep it, as well as not to complicate things and just see her as a friend. An early episode that was a bit of fun had the whole Stewart family involved, where Miley and Jackson end up reluctantly working together after both of them want to go see the newest Ashton Kutcher movie, but their father Robbie has them staying home to study while he has a business meeting to attend. Of course, this wouldn't last long with both Miley and Jackson sneaking out of the house separately to meet up with their individual friends. They do end up running into one another, but that's not their biggest problem, as they then see Robbie there on a date and not at a business meeting, showing that he lied to them to cover up the fact that he is on a date. Miley gets a bit let down with this since their mom passed away, and she's really not ready to see her dad with another person, thinking that this is all to replace her mom. So now after they find out who this woman is and what her job is, Miley dresses up like Hannah and has Jackson come along as a pretend chauffeur as they act like they're looking for a house to buy, as this lady here is a real estate agent. But when they are meeting with her face to face in her office, Robbie enters the building, causing the kids to hide in her closet. But of course, in all of this excitement, the real estate lady tells Robbie that Hannah Montana is in her closet right now, and once she leaves the room, Robbie waits annoyingly as both kids come out as Miley storms away angrily at her father, causing Miley later that night to strum on her guitar singing about missing her mother. Robbie joins her to talk about how much he misses her as well, and says that he's not replacing her, but life does go on, and for both of them to be happy is something her mom would have wanted. The kids also get caught for sneaking out the night before, but that was bound to happen. Remember, clean up your tracks. Now, Miley also starts having a crush on this kid named Josh, who she has a hard time speaking to, even making a fool of herself in front of him out of nervousness. Well, I guess it worked, as later on he would call her up asking her out on a date. We get a nice awkward father-date conversation, and Miley finds out that Josh here doesn't like Hannah Montana at all, causing her to find ways for him to also like Hannah, as it would be weird for them to date if, even unbeknownst to him, he did like Miley but didn't like her secret life counterpart. Now, after some time, while he isn't fully convinced, he did try offering a nice gesture, where he would give Hannah a full chance by taking Miley to a Hannah Montana concert. So similar to the plot of the first episode, but here this has Miley running back and forth between her seat with Josh and changing back into Hannah to perform, being extremely reactionary to Josh's preferences, like him liking hip-hop more, where then Hannah begins rapping on stage. But after all this cringiness, Josh ends up leaving the concert anyway. Miley was barely spending time with him, only focusing on just trying to get him to like Hannah, so now their chances were basically over for working out. We do, however, get to meet Rico in this episode, where Jackson has now begun working for him, where this little subplot here has Jackson being interested in one of his friends, Cooper's sister, which just gets awkward as the big payoff is that she's just really flirty and apparently will make out with anyone and was never really all that interested in Jackson for any other reason. If you're not a celebrity life is hard, you know? You have to act cool around all your other fellow celebrities, which in this case, Lily is not accustomed accustomed to, constantly embarrassing Hannah behind the scenes where Lily can't help but be herself and be so into the celebrities they end up meeting or seeing. Miley, though, would get an invite to an exclusive party at Kelly Clarkson's, but pretends it's canceled as an excuse to Lily so she wouldn't come, as well as Hannah's friend Tracy, this nasally voiced judgmental rich type that only appears on occasion in the show, doesn't want Lily around Hannah at these events either. Well, Lola, but there isn't much difference there outside of a wig and a name. Miley now, as Hannah, isn't having a great time at this party thanks to her not having Lily around. But before she can get off scot-free of going to this party without her, a photographer captures that she was there, ending up on the front page of the newspaper, as now Miley tries her best to hide this to make sure Lily never sees this newspaper, but of course, luck runs out at some point, where Lily finds out about this and Miley has a talk with Lily to explain everything and how she was truly feeling, and now that there is another party, she makes sure that Lily, as Lola, comes along for sure, regardless of what her friend Tracy thinks, standing up for Lola in front of her, as well as threatening her about spilling the tea regarding a sneeze of hers landing some nose goo on the Olsen twins. And now they can all enjoy the party. And apparently Orlando Bloom was there. But at this time he was the hottest thing in Hollywood. Lord of the Rings, Pirates of the Caribbean, Elizabethtown, and before we get lost in his filmography, we can't forget that both Rico and Jackson are messing with each other, resulting in both of them now being bald. We then get to see an episode that focuses on how Jackson feels sometimes while having a famous sister, when their Meemaw comes to visit and is treating Jackson a lot better than she is treating Miley. From the gifts to caring about what they have to say, you name it. It's always about Jackson, but not about Miley anymore. This would hit a boiling point for Miley, thinking that her grandma doesn't like her, as we hear from both Jackson and the grandma that it's always about Miley in the first place. She already gets all this attention and whatever she wants, while Jackson hangs out in the shadows, getting secondary treatment. While I think there would be a better conversation here about this over just, disregarding Miley in general, it results in Miley rushing through her performance for the Queen of England so that she can go root for her brother in a volleyball tournament that means a lot to him. And canonically to real life, the Queen is shown being a gamer here, and remember, she actually had a real golden Wii. It's almost Miley's birthday, and Robbie is shopping for the perfect gift. Well, in his eyes, as Miley always dreads what he buys for her. Miley then has Lily go run into her dad at the mall to help guide him into a better gift for her birthday, while Miley, who is trying to spy on all this to help give signals, gets caught by a store associate and somehow ends up getting stuck pretending to be a mannequin of herself as Hannah, now on display. Miley, as this mannequin, then grabs onto a piece of clothing, taking it from some stranger that she really likes, and Lily is able to get it and give it to Robbie as he makes the purchase, and the mission seems to be a success. Once it's her birthday, she is given gifts, but the one Robbie gives her is no longer the one that they had picked out. Instead, it's an embarrassing sweater that she is asked to wear before the surprise of her whole grade being invited over to the shindig. She ends up getting made fun of for having this sweater, of course, and when she does go off about how much she hates it, Robbie was right there, hearing all of this, causing him to be upset, and Miley trying to backpedal to make him feel better. So, they work things out as father and daughter, and obviously everything will be alright in the end. Now, with such a crazy life, it's hard to always find time for your friends. So Miley and Lily go ahead and try out for the cheerleading team together in an effort just to do something to spend more time with one another that isn't all Hannah focused. And while at first Lily isn't great at any of the moves that she is being taught, she decides to use her skateboarding tricks, just minus the board, and oh boy is it something. And she is able to wow the team to join the team, while Miley doesn't and is given the prestigious role of the mascot, which if you've ever seen the Disney Channel games, you'll know that she actually really wanted to be a mascot, so sometimes you get what you wish for. Of course, this whole plan backfires as Miley becomes miserable doing this, and Lily has less and less time to spend with Miley because cheer is taking up all of her free time now. Miley then loses the role of the mascot, RIP, when getting into a fight with another mascot, but she does learn to be happy and root for Lily since she's always done the same for her. There is no point to building up this hatred over a friend for them finding success in a field that you may want to find success in yourself. You should support them and want to see them succeed rather than prey on their downfall, which I believe is a pretty valuable lesson in this day and age. The two work things out and find compromises in their schedules to make sure that they go and spend time together no matter what. And hey, Jackson this episode actually helps out Robbie when fixing a sink, leading him to be given some props from his father, which is something he desperately needs. What's a show without a camping episode, right? Well, here we are with the school class going on a trip that has, of course, our main trio, but also the popular girls Ashley and Amber, especially since all four of the girls are forced to share a tent together. Oliver also has to deal with a pretty lame tent mate as well. But the tensions rise when Miley works hard with Lily to set up the tent, and the other girls who are complaining the whole trip take credit for it, causing a verbal argument, sending Miley and and Lily to wash some dishes as punishment for being nasty towards the other girls. But the thing was, Miley and Lily were doing their best not to be nasty. They tried to make things work without making things go another direction, thanks to Robbie telling Miley that if she gets down with the dogs, she'll get fleas. Basically saying if you stoop to their level and try to hurt someone, you ultimately will be only hurting yourself in the end. But Robbie spends this whole episode with Jackson trying to catch a mouse, and once they find out that this mouse can play the piano and is talented, they have a change of heart towards it. How sweet. But back at camp, Miley and Lily, along with Oliver, plan a fake bear attack with Oliver dressed as a bear, and Miley and Lily would come in as heroes to save Amber and Lily, but they end off running scared right into a porta potty with Oliver's tent mate who is using it, and they get 8 crazy nighted. If you get that reference, we can be friends. But the scene I'm referencing is too foul for me to show in this video, but I'm sure you can use your imagination. Karma always works in both directions though, as our trio here were standing in Poison Oak, and during an interview later on where Miley is now Hannah, well, yeah, you could see it's pretty unfortunate. Something to note here is that part of the base level of this plot is also a Victorious episode later on regarding messing up the national anthem at a game, which in Hannah's case she does, but only thanks to accidentally reciting Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, since at school she is having to practice it with Oliver, who she's having issues with him not taking it seriously due to some stage fright issues, and she's frustrated at this. Look, it's a whole mess that results in them having to work that out by the end of the episode, but for Miley, she now becomes too scared to perform, worried that she'll forget the lyrics and feel embarrassed once again. Lily tries helping her with cue cards that become a problem for her to read as well, thanks to the audience, and when it looks like she's about to fail, Oliver gets the crowd to sing with him, helping his own stage fright, which lifts up Miley as Hannah to perform Good as New. It's pretty wholesome between Miley and Oliver for them to work out their performance in a spotlight issue and strengthen their friendship. Chicken suits, they're in, which Jackson loves so much because he's forced to wear it for Rico, but it will come back into play in just a bit, as Miley gets tangled in this love scandal involving a girl at school who writes to Hannah's fan email about liking Oliver, or Miley plays matchmaker telling Oliver this, and things end up going well for Oliver. He finds a new love interest, he's happy, but then Hannah receives another email about the same girl ending things with a boy who really likes her, which Miley freaks out about this, trying to warn Oliver, thinking that it was Oliver she's talking about. And of course now he gets upset about this, and now he is going to go and end things with her before she can end things with him. Miley though finds out that the other email was regarding her old boyfriend and not Oliver. So now on the beach, to make sure Oliver doesn't go through with this, Miley borrows the chicken suit and parasails by them to get Oliver's attention, but to hide the notion that Oliver and them knew about some sort of breakup, they pretend Miley has had this big crush on Oliver, but Miley relays that she just thinks that they're perfect together and will no longer be interested in Oliver. Yeah, my takeaway in all that is that chicken suits are always in. So this next episode is a really interesting one, as it was part of this major 3-show pileup known as That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana. You could have put a the between so and sweet, would have sounded a little bit better. But it's a crossover event that features the 3 shows, That's So Raven, The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, and obviously Wizards of Waverly Place. I'm kidding, that show doesn't exist yet. It was Hannah Montana. These 3 shows would interact with one another, all have their own standalone episodes that would feature crossover moments of the characters. This event was huge, garnering somewhere around 7 million viewers, which I mean is well deserved, mixing together such popular shows. This would all be centered at the Tipton Hotel, and The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody is something I plan on covering more in depth later this year. But we follow Raven's story coming to the hotel regarding her design talents and fashion, and through this we end up getting to Miley's story, where after she checks into the hotel, and as Hannah gets into a fight with London over Raven's really awesome dress, resulting in some, well, less than favorable results. But for Hannah's episode in all of this, where Maddie notices that Robbie is the famous Robbie Ray, and that she loves his music, this leads Miley helping to try and get her father's career back on track, feeling responsible for him stopping it in the first place so that she can have a career of her own. Now with him back with his old manager and in San Diego to perform music, he gets offered to go on tour with Toby Keith, which would take him away from his kids and being there as a father. He ends up declining this to go back with his family, as we have this discussion about him no longer having his career, not from him having to give it up for his kids, but for him wanting to give it up for them. And as wholesome as it was, and as nice as it was for Robbie to have some music flowing through him again, this is ultimately the least connected part of these 3 episodes for this special, really only having a small plot point to play, where the rest is really just kind of focused on Robbie. So maybe it was a waste to use this plot for the crossover, but it was still a nice little episode nonetheless. But now it's about glamour and how you look, where Miley has to model for an acne cream as her skin always has been perfect, and this plays into the theme of the episode, especially when Lily needs some glasses when she can't find her contacts and is worried about how she looks in them, when Miley says that, look looks don't matter. That is until Miley is made aware of a pimple that was being placed onto her head on the billboard for the ad by the photographer herself. And this does bother Miley, which kind of goes back on the whole looks don't matter thing, that she was preaching about earlier. So she pretends that it doesn't bother her one bit, but it does. So before it was unveiled to the public, she snuck up to it with Jackson to paint over the blemish so that she does have perfect skin once more. But once it is shown off, Lily is now mad at Miley for everything that she's just, been a hypocrite about. But of course, Miley does realize that she shouldn't worry about looks and goes to clean off the touch-up to expose the zit, right when a bird relieves themselves onto her. Definitely a nice moral to the story with this episode, because if you care too much about looks, in the end, you'll always feel like poop. Or something. But now in school, a new student is transferring, and it's none other than famous television actor Jake Ryan, who is now starting to go to school at a public level. How brave. Of course, this causes a stir. There are camera reporters there, every girl in school is fawning over him. It's a whole to-do. In fact, this was the original concept for Hannah Montana when it was about a television star going to a regular school, just now repurposed for an episode rather than the show's entire premise. So that's actually really cool. Miley, however, gets annoyed at this, as the point of her going to public school and hiding her stardom was to find peace in not being this larger-than-life person being treated a different way. So out of this anger and the accidental convincing from her friends, and from being jealous from all the extra treatment he is getting from being a celeb, she ends up talking to this reporter, and in a moment where she's not really thinking things through, tells the reporter that she's really Hannah Montana. And to prove this, she invites the reporter over to her house. So that's fun. But what's more fun is that Jake has a moment with Miley talking about how he thinks Miley is cool because she doesn't view him in this famous light, but as an actual person, which he wishes he could do somehow. To get out of the whole reporter finding out the truth, Miley gets her brother and father to all pretend to be impersonators along with her. She pretends to be Hannah, Jackson does an Elvis bit, and Robbie Ray, well, he pretends to be who he actually is in real life, Billy Ray. What a goofball. This works as the reporter thinks that it's all a waste of time and this whole family is nuts. And Miley learns that she will make this decision to tell others about this when she is ready, or when she feels comfortable. If she's ever ready, for that matter. Which is a bigger theme we will get to when we talk about stuff like the movie, outside of the show, just randomly having almost slip-up moments like this. Hey, Jake's still around, and he even asked Miley to the school dance, but she says no. But also, Hannah Montana has a scene in a TV show that she's cameoing in, where she has to kiss Jake, who is on the TV show, and she doesn't want to do that either. But she finds out that Jake has this whole thing for Miley, on a deeper level, thanks to the comments we heard in the last episode about her seeing him as a regular person rather than for his celebrity status. So her perspective completely warps, and she does have a thing for him now as well, but her chance to kiss him on the show is gone. She now has to kiss this thing. But you know who else also likes Jake? Lily does. And when Miley is telling her that she likes him, he ends up asking Lily to the dance, where she says yes, and now we have friction between best friends once again. Now at the dance, the two angry girls get into more of a fight as Miley does what she can to steal Jake's attention away from Lily, and ships are crushed, punches splashed, and both of them in the heat of the moment have caused such a dramatic and emotional scene that leaves them to clean up in the restroom while making up for the fight, and in the end, they just dance with one another, but of course still have their own individual feelings for Jake. So that's fun. But enough of Jake for now, we need a guest star appearance from Dolly Parton, who plays Miley's godmother, as when she comes to visit, she now must help Miley, as on camera, Miley talks about how she is in love with Jake. Okay, never mind. I guess we're still on this whole Jake thing. Thanks to Oliver, who is shooting for a special goodbye for their principal, he needs Miley to say something on camera, but he accidentally grabs Dolly's camera on the way out of her house that had the recording of Miley on it, so yeah, you can see where this is all going. Oh, and get this, the person who is the editor for this goodbye video is Jake. So Miley, Lily, and Dolly dress up in spy outfits and try to infiltrate their way through the school to where Jake would have all these tapes in the editing bay. Dolly pretends to be this custodian and distracts Jake, while Miley comes out of the trash bin and finds the right tape, as well as being covered in a bunch of different food waste. It's like the Kids' Choice Awards in there. But hey, she did get the tape back. Later on, she would feel conflicted with holding back these romantic feelings and wants to risk telling him anyway, where she finds out that he is now in a new relationship with someone else. And Miley is a bit upset about this, but is okay still having a crush on him, especially after having a good old-fashioned singing session with Dolly and Robbie. See, the boots that I wear were made for walking away from women. I'm scared. Now it's time for the evil lookalike episode where we meet Luann, Miley's lookalike cousin who is kind to everyone but is evil to Miley. Where at at one point ties up the real Miley and pretends to be her, now in disguise as Hannah, to go to this party with Oliver and Lily in their alter egos, where on stage she is about to reveal that underneath this Hannah outfit is really Miley. But the real Miley, and with the help of her friends, are able to cut off the lights and pull her off stage just in time. And now with two identical looking people, the only way to test to find out who the real Miley is by having them kiss Oliver, which the fake Miley agrees to, but the real Miley gets grossed out by, which is how they know for sure who is the real one. They then send the fake Miley flying into the sun. Okay, I lied about that last part, but it would have been a fun ending. You can't disagree with that. Oh, did you think we were done with Jake yet? No, we got some more Jake to worry about here, where Miley thinks that he's dating this one girl named Holly, so to make him jealous, she goes on a date with a kid named Willis, who is actually a lot younger than Miley, so that's not cool. But Jake and Miley have some time to talk, and she finds out that Holly is just a publicity front, and Jake ends up kissing Miley. And they now want to make things official, but uh-oh, he has to go to Romania for several months to shoot a movie. Will we see Jake again? Is this the end of the Jake arc? Find out on the next episode of Hannah Montana Z. Oh hey, it's the next episode. And Miley's class at school has to pair up and raise money to where the winner gets a few $100 gift card, which Miley is rich technically, why should she care about all that? Well, Ashley and Amber is why she should care. Everyone here is using dirty tactics just to win for the bragging rights, where Miley and Lily just use Miley's Hannah persona to help them do so, but feel guilty about this as it feels like cheating, especially as another girl in class, Sarah, is genuinely in this for the pure reasons of charity, wanting to donate the full winnings in the end. So they find a way to get their earnings to her to help her win, but Ashley and Amber use more dirty tactics to get bigger checks written to them from their parents. But Miley jumps in during their winning interview to make it seem that they were donating their earnings and going to volunteer in a soup kitchen, which they now end up doing so because of that. So remember, you should always be charitable, especially if you can be more charitable than other people that you dislike, because charity is all about being better at giving to charity. Oh wait, that's not the lesson? Give Sarah money for her to give to charity. Yeah, that sounds like a lesson. Okay, so here's a roller coaster of an episode that has a high up, but a non-stop down that constantly goes down when you think it can't go down anymore. From Miley getting her own credit card and irresponsibly using it to buy a bunch of stuff at a flea market that's only around for one day, and then she quickly realizes how screwed she is with her father, who trusted her with this credit card. But you know, the flea market's already gone, so she can't return anything. So Jackson helps her sell all of this old Hannah Montana clothes, including some fake earrings that were given to her for this video shoot. But after doing that, it's revealed that they weren't fake after all, and that the jeweler who gave them to her needs them back. So now Miley has to track them down, and when she does, she finds out that this older lady has them and gives her this fake sob story about, oh, they were my grandmother's and I really want them back. And the lady of course agrees to that after a moment, but only if the grandma comes in to get them, entering in Jackson dressed as an old lady to help Miley do so. And when things weren't going so well, and this was leading nowhere but an endless conversation, one of the old men was secretly Robbie in disguise, who knew what happened and set this whole thing up just to teach them a lesson. You know, instead of just talking with your kids, setting up an elaborate gotcha moment totally does the trick. Now speaking about Miley and Jackson's relationship, what if they were really in one? Yeah, I hate that I said that sentence too, but I think I dislike this episode more because that's what happens here. A paparazzi person follows Hannah home on some creep moves, and Jackson happens to be there, where now the excuse becomes that this is Jackson's house and that Jackson is Hannah's boyfriend. Yeah, well, this ended up on the front of magazines and it got out of hand to where Jackson was getting a bunch of fun perks from others because he was dating Hannah, so he convinced her to do this for a while longer until on a show she's completely had enough and breaks up with him, and he sits there heartbroken about this. But hey, Oliver and that Sarah girl almost had a thing. No, you don't care about that subplot? The whole brother-sister relationship really has you stun-locked as well? I understand. Thanks for that, Disney. Here's another bit of Rico for you in case you missed him, where now Miley has to dance in a competition with him so that he'll pay Jackson more so that he'll continue to work there and not be around as much to interrupt and annoy Miley at home when she's preparing for Hannah stuff. A little bit of a lot of explanation just to get to the dancing part, but regardless, we are here. But before this, she refuses and Jackson ends up getting fired. So that works out for no one. Miley makes a comment in jest about him working as Hannah's assistant, to which he accepts, and this doesn't really work out so great, and Miley feels too guilty for getting him fired from his last job in the first place. How could she fire him from working for her? But through increasingly bad mess-ups all the way to taking one of her background dancers out, forcing him to then take the role instead and causing a bigger scene for her performance, knocking himself into Hannah, this now really causes her to fire him. And Jackson has a heart-to-heart with his dad about this and talks to him about actually liking liking working for Rico. So when Miley hears about this and is still feeling bad for Jackson, she swallows her pride and goes and dances with Rico so that Jackson could have his job back. All's well that ends well, unless you're Oliver, who was hired and fired all because of Jackson. Who hasn't had a school bully? Ha, if you raised your hand, then you were a nerd. Oh, wait, why am I raising my hand? Anyway, this new girl at school who is called the Cracker, and no, not for the reasons Hassan Piker may get banned from Twitch for, but because she can crack through nuts with her bare hands. She is portrayed like a bully. Miley tries to be nice to her since everyone was judging her, but this ends up with lipstick written and smeared all across her face, so, things are going pretty swell. Miley talks with her Hannah bodyguard Roxy, who tells them to talk with the principal about this bully, but when they don't do so, Roxy comes into school to protect her and Lily from the Cracker. But her overprotectiveness takes things too far and Miley has to escape from her watch and face the Cracker again, who makes a salad out of Miley as the principal comes in and the Cracker gets in some big trouble. Roxy was doing all of this in hopes that they would just go and get the principal involved on their own and learn a lesson or something like that. Look, being turned into a salad isn't all that bad. At least she decorated her nicely, and at least they didn't get a swirly. You've heard of Dancing with the Stars, but what about Singing with the Stars? Well, the winner of this show would end up getting to perform with none other than Hannah Montana. At school, being fed up with Ashley and Amber being mean to her and Lily, she mistakes Amber for being this awful singer and gets her to be on the show to embarrass her on TV. But it was really Ashley that was the bad singer, as Amber ends up defying the odds and making Hannah feel sympathetic for her based on her past, and Hannah makes her promise to be nicer to those around her, as she then helps her avoid the trap that Lily and her had set up to get her for live television. But then this also backfired at school when Amber wasn't nicer to Miley or Lily, but to a kid named Dandruff Danny. So thanks to Lily being smart, she hid a trap in Amber's locker and it gets her back anyway. Just not on TV. Hannah Montana has finally made it. She's got herself a sponsorship. Every YouTuber's dream, right? Well, here it's a perfume line that has a raspberry smell to it, causing her to be sick because she doesn't like raspberries because of this haunting pie-eating contest we see in a flashback. But she doesn't want to give up the sponsor just because she has this specific reaction to it, but she also can't play poker either because she has an awful tell when she lies, this little laugh. Well, she ends up coming clean after being super nervous during an interview about it and gives up all the goods that come from the sponsorship. In this case, she lost a car. Ouch. But you have to be selective with your brand deals and your sponsorships. If you don't believe in the brand or have some personal use of what the brand is, then you're just a sellout. Speaking of sponsorships, I have all the receipts to back up my personal use of this brand that I enjoy. I'd like to take a moment and thank today's sponsor, Factor, a service I have used for all of 2022 personally. Knowing my schedule, working on videos and all that, making food isn't high on that list. I don't have the time to cook, causing me to constantly order in because it was easy. But Factor found a way to make it even easier and in a much healthier and better tasting way. Factor offers fast and healthy pre-prepared meals that come in a delivery kit straight to your door. With a plethora of options ranging from low-calorie, keto, vegan, and vegetarian, there is always something that your taste buds will thank you for choosing. Each week you have a list of highly customizable options to choose from for your upcoming shipments. It's literally as easy as popping this into the microwave, and in less than a few minutes, a nicely prepared meal is ready to eat. Aside from the great meals, Factor sent me over these plant-based smoothies that I have incorporated into my morning routine. And one of my personal favorite meals from them is the cacio e pepe, which comes with nicely prepared broccoli and cauliflower. This year for me is all about eating better, and Factor is aiding in that process for me. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code FRINGE50 for 50% off your first Factor box. Thanks again to Factor for sponsoring this video. Speaking of thanks to Miley taking up all of Jackson's time for granted and having him give up all of his plans all the time to do stuff for her, like take her to the mall instead of him being able to go to a baseball game. When he tells her what's what about all this, he challenges her to spend a whole day dealing with their neighbor's niece Patty. And now when we first meet her, she is all quiet and just chillin', but as soon as Miley accepts the deal and is left with her, she starts screaming at the top of her lungs. Jackson had actually bribed her to stay silent while he sets up the bet in general. Miley has a fashion show to make though, and this little girl is so annoying, so she tries to speed up everything that they do so she can still win this bet and move on with her day. She then realizes what Jackson's whole point of this thing was the whole time, as she feels that she can't go on and live her life being stuck living this little girl's life. Also, her pants explode from stuffed animal fluff. She then, while dressed in a moose costume since, she lost her pants, has a talk with Jackson, who she apologizes to, and they make amends. And Jackson even offers to take her to the fashion show, which is really nice. But as we see when walking down the runway at the fashion show, since the moose costume was stuck on, she just wears her dress over it. And thus, the first season is over for Hannah Montana, offering a fun introduction to the series, the characters, and the dynamics we shall see going forward. While not every episode I'd say was perfect, there were a handful of really fun and memorable moments here just in season 1, with 3 seasons and a movie still left to go.
Hannah Montana will be right back on Disney Channel. Eat doggies. Let's get back to Hannah Montana on Disney Channel.
Yeah.
Briefly, before we move on to the next season, I wanted to take some time to look at the merchandise of Hannah Montana. While there may be too much in general here to go over that it would need its own multi-hour long video just to cover, I wanted to talk about how much money was out there for the Hannah Montana IP, specifically with all of the merch. Something that I really remember attached to this show were the licensed video games based on Hannah Montana. First, on the Nintendo DS, we had simply titled Hannah Montana, where you play as Miley and Lily trying to solve mysteries, piece together everything that you can figure out, whatever it takes to find the person who might know and reveal Miley's secret to the world. But there's always time for fashion, so you can design custom clothes and find more throughout your explorations in Malibu. The next Nintendo DS game was Hannah Montana Music Jam, where it was more so a program that would allow you to create, shoot, and stylize your own music and music videos. There was then Hannah Montana Spotlight World Tour for the PlayStation 2 and Nintendo Wii, where you copy the dance moves with either motion controls on one console or a dance pad on the other. Of course, there was a movie tie-in game that came out on, well, pretty much everything, that follows parts of the movie as well as performing a bunch of her songs in general. There was a couple of mobile games as well, Hannah Montana in Action, Hannah Montana Secret Star, but we can't forget Hannah Montana Rock Out the Show for the Sony PSP. Not for the gameplay of tour managing Miley and scheduling her performances and what they consist of with a dash of rhythm-styled gameplay. We remember it for the limited edition PSP bundle that had this game, a special UMD of a few episodes from the show, a 2GB memory card, some other small bonuses like stickers, but most importantly, the lilac color-themed PSP itself. I mean, come on, it's not just every property that gets a special PSP bundle. I mean, we got the God of War PSP, the Darth Vader PSP, and of course, boom, the Hannah Montana PSP. It deserves its own spot with the greats. No, it doesn't have anything Hannah Montana themed special on its shell or anything, you know, like the others do, but it doesn't have to. It still rocked out the show. There was also a game called Hannah Montana Popstar that was supposed to come out, but it was canceled while in production, so there almost was another. Well, in case gaming is not your style, but you still want to enjoy Hannah Montana in style, why not get the 13-inch Hannah Montana TV? Perfect for those cozy nights in which you'd sit 2 feet away from the screen to hear compressed audio. It's great. If you'd want something more modern, don't worry. They did have a 15-inch LCD set with matching DVD player that looks just fabulous. Is that the right word I'm looking for here? I can plug in the Hannah Montana plug and play for even more random video game fun with my favorite Hannah Montana characters right into the TV. Well, when I'm done with that and I just want to, rock out the show some more, I can strum my Hannah Montana Jammin' electric guitar that comes with a bonus doll of Miley. What a good deal. Heck, there were a lot of dolls in general, too many to count. There's even this 3-pack. Is Oliver okay here? Regardless, I can use my Hannah Montana home phone line to call my friend who answers on their Hannah Montana VTech cordless phone as we write our secrets down in our Hannah Montana password protected journals that comes with the hit song Rockstar preloaded in it. Or I can upgrade to the Rockin' Dream Journal. Cool girls say what? Oh, I said what? Guess that means I'm cool. Or I can use the My Secret Pillow. Yeah, this is a product that does all the journaling stuff. It has a speaker in it that plays music. It's completely washable, and you can sleep on it. Man, what do they think of next? How about a Hannah Montana karaoke machine? Oh, nice. Yeah, that just makes sense. A clock radio with iPad plug-in spot? You betcha. Fake cell phones? Yeah. Walkie-talkies? Sure. Beach ball and raft combo? Well, duh. Board games? Why not? Microphones? It's on brand. Hair braider? Absolutely tater. Lunch boxes? Clearly. Dangling charms? You gotta collect them all. Mixed clips SD cards full of Hannah Montana music? It only makes sense. Luggage? How else are you gonna travel to Disneyland? Books? I can't read. Card making set? Okay. Girls Rock stationery set? Yeah, fine. Fashion designer set? A must have. Color explosion scenes? Draw away. A Hannah Montana sizzle? I don't even know what a sizzle is, but they sure did make one.
Gosh darn trading cards.
This thing, it scares me. It was merch madness is what I'm trying to convey here. Like, if you can think of it, there was a Hannah Montana branded version version of it. This market outside of the show and the music was extremely massive all on its own, bringing in a large chunk of the money that made Hannah Montana one of the most profitable series or intellectual properties in general of all time. Okay, well, I can't declare that for real. Maybe all time for Disney. It's a crazy rabbit hole to go through to see not just in the States, but globally, the insane amount of licensing this property had. I personally remember just seeing Hannah Montana stuff everywhere during this time. You couldn't walk into a Walmart without seeing something Hannah Montana in any direction that you looked, from the clothes to the toys to the electronics and more. Disney really banked heavily here, but since they were based on Hannah Montana's likeness, a fictional character created by Disney, and not specifically Miley per se, I just hope that somehow there was legit safeguard deals that were made as to her not getting screwed over by big corpo on this. Speaking of corporations, let's jump back into the Disney Channel and rock some more with Miley and the crew for Hannah Montana Season 2. Starting off Season 2 with a bang, it is time for high school. And after a struggle to get up in the morning, Miley heads off with Lily to their first day, and Miley brings her teddy bear with her, for a little extra support. And Lily freaks out over this due to what it could cause to the reputation on day one. But Miley gets a message from an anonymous number threatening that whoever this is knows her secret and has proof of it. When they find out that this is none other than Rico, who has now become a high school student despite his age, and he uses knowing this secret to get Miley to be his pretend girlfriend, even propositioning a kiss. But Miley is tired of everything that she has been put through by him and says that it would be less worse if others just knew the secret anyway. Rico hits her with a sob story to where he's going to get a kiss on the cheek from her at the end, but he does the whole last second head turn thing and ends up getting a regular kiss and running for his life from an angry Miley. Oh, and the secret the whole time was that she brought her teddy bear to school and not, the other major secret. We also get to meet Thor in this episode, who, in a detriment to Jackson, becomes his new buddy, and he's just a lovable guy. Uh-oh, Stinky is what Miley is called, especially when picked last for activities in gym class. Lily gets to be a team captain for flag football, but thanks to the other team captain being her personal rival, she gets heated and wants to take her down, and the loser of the game would have to receive a haircut from the winner, resulting in Miley not getting picked by Lily at all, leaving her dead last. So now Stinky Stewart over here is mad at Lily as she refuses to talk to her, and this fight escalates to them arguing over Oliver, but Oliver hits them with the handcuffs that puts them together. His mom was a police officer and he stole the cuffs for reasons. And you know how this cliche goes. Through their time together handcuffed, they make up, they realize how good of friends they are, and Miley accepts her music award for her song True Friend. Moral of the story, don't let rivalries blindside you from picking your friends first for sports, even if they're not good whatsoever. Look, there's nothing wrong with being who you are. Whatever your style or attitude is, don't be afraid to own it, rather than brush it aside here like Miley has Lily do with her more tomboyish behaviors, which result in her crush asking her to the dance then. Knowing that Amber and Ashley are also somewhat interested in her crush, in order to keep his attention, she has to go from skate chick to date chick. And after hearing that, my lunch had to go from my stomach to out of my mouth. So she goes full ladylike with her style, this dude Matt stands her up, and Miley is furious, bringing him to a teen court TV show, and if you're found guilty, you get food dumped on you. You see, this is fun, and it should be a real show. I would love Judge Judy to just dump food on the loser in her courtroom. That's just good TV. Here we see that both sides claim that they were stood up, as Matt makes a note that the way Lily was originally, the skater vibes that she gave off, was his type, and why he liked her in the first place. And then she ditched all that. Miley is then found guilty as she made her friend change, and gets this nice spaghetti and anchovy concoction dumped all over her. Well, you may have lost, but at least you get a free lunch. And also, Thor's in this episode, and I enjoy that. Miley needs to do good in biology before she can head on her European tour. Oh, the woes of being a teenage superstar. This episode is a famous one for one thing and one thing only. We're doing the bone dance, we study the answers again and again till we get it right. You know, the sick bone-related study song remix to the hit Hannah Montana song Nobody's Perfect? I mean, come on, it's a classic. Well, she has to make sure that she can name every bone in the human body, and since she's good at memorizing the music she writes, or that her father writes, this should help. But when Miley's use of dance moves helps her truly memorize all of this, and she can't do that in class without the teacher thinking she's cheating, Oliver tries faking a gusher of a nosebleed, but nothing ends up helping Miley get through her test. So she gets in trouble, but stands up for herself, showing that she does know all of the bones thanks to the bone dance, completing the full performance in the classroom and getting her an A. And besides Jack Jackson having to take care of Thor's pet parrot that he thinks he kills, this episode started an epidemic for students to create songs out of their studies to do great on them. Or that's the imaginative world I pretend to live in. Either way, iconic. A singer's most impressive asset is their appearance, then followed by their voice, of course. And Miley here strains her vocal cords after multiple encores at a concert, leaving her without a voice. And after it does come back and she performs again, it fails her on stage during one of her songs, and now at a doctor, she is told that she needs a surgery in order to have a chance at keeping her singing voice. This all scares her with nightmares of fully losing her singing voice, her career, her fame, her adoration from fans, her best friends, and that she becomes a peasant while Jackson becomes a famous star now. Good old Bucky, Kentucky. Now that's a good idea for a show. This episode does have a more meaningful moment for Miley, as she has a dream of her mother who passed away, played by Brooke Shields, that assures her everything will be okay and her friends would never ditch her for such petty reasons. They were friends before knowing her secret, so why wouldn't they be there if she wasn't famous anymore? And the surgery goes by fine, nothing happens to her career, and we find out that sugar before bed gives Miley nightmares. Nice one, Robbie. Siblings can sometimes suck, and Miley is in a feud with Jackson after they both mess up the plumbing battling for water in their respective bathrooms. But with only one bathroom working now for the next couple weeks, they're forced to share, and things start getting pretty ugly. Jackson gets some toothpaste spit on the back of his neck, and Miley has to deal with all this left around undergarments, and Robbie is fed up with these two and tries to get them to work things out, which at first, it doesn't work. It just turns into them mocking each other. So next he suits them up and arms them for battle, to get their issues out with one another, and that doesn't work. So they both just get grounded and they're not allowed to go out to these plans that they had that night. Miley had a party and Jackson had a date that he was taking to a concert. But they both sneak out, having Lily and Oliver pretend to be them in their rooms, as now the siblings have to work together once they get stuck in a dangerous situation in a car that is now hanging over a cliff. Yeah, this show all of a sudden got really tense. And after narrowly escaping this that required their teamwork and trust, the cliff was only a couple feet and not as tense as we thought. And they still get in trouble for all this, but hey, at least they aren't fighting. At least as much. Lily deserves a real shot at love, so she's dating a kid named Lucas. But Miley ends up starting to feel like a tag-along here, a third wheel. So Lily sets her up with Lucas's cousin Derek, and hey, this kid's going to be Elvis one day, I just know it. But when they're watching a horror movie, he proves to be quite the scaredy cat, ruining Miley's time or even interest in him at all. Oh, and on top of that, she eventually sees Lucas making out with another girl, so as a good friend, she goes and tells Lily, and Lily, who was in love with Lucas, doesn't believe her initially, claiming that she's just jealous of her relationship and happiness. Now a Miley's gotta do what a Miley's gotta do, and that is to prove Lucas's cheating ways to Lily. Out at a restaurant as Hannah and Lola, Oliver and Lucas are there as well, and Hannah catches Lucas's attention as he tries to go up and give her his number. But when she gets interrupted by a fan, Lola has a chance to speak with Lucas, who doesn't recognize her and says that he has 2 girlfriends currently, and that he'd gladly dump both of them to be with Hannah. So she dumps some cocktail sauce on him like they're on the teen court TV, and Lily prepares to handle this as herself instead of Lola later at school. Lily forgives Miley and that they need to always have a level of trust with one another, which is really wholesome, and I'm tired of all these boys ruining their friendship for 22 minutes a week. What is this? Another crossover episode? You bet. This time with the Disney show that was a spin-off of another Disney show that this Disney show already crossed over with before, and that is Cory in the House, the spin-off to That's So Raven, and perhaps it may be the best anime ever made. So it's really an honor that Hannah Montana was able to cross over with them. Here, Miley gets frustrated with her bodyguard Roxy, who ends up one day meeting the president and the president's daughter, both from Cory in the House. And she saves the president, not in a really cool way, but in a he's about to almost eat some bad sushi way. So Roxy gets offered a job to work for him as a part of his security detail, but originally turns it down because she's devoted to Miley. But Miley starts pushing her away to take the job, but only because it would personally benefit her so she can have more freedom. And because of all this, they get into a big fight. Roxy ends up leaving to go take the job, and I guess Miley got what she wanted. Yeah, so she just leaves this show and joins Cory in the House, and that's how we end it. Well, okay, that would have been an interesting ending. But Miley infiltrates the president's setup in disguise as Hannah at first, to then sneak around, gets caught and mistaken for this dog whisperer. She eats some dog food, but ultimately, this was all in an attempt to get to Roxy and make amends. How sweet. Things worked out. Yeah, Jake is back now. His Romanian film shoot has ended, and he surprises Miley with love and affection. But she's still mad at him for kissing her and then dipping for several months. Jake does everything he can to get Miley to forgive him, all the way until until he says during an interview that he's in love with Miley Stewart, causing her to see that he truly does care about her. And now, since they go to the premiere of the film together, Miley becomes famous just for being in a relationship with Jake. So no longer is this the best of both worlds, your private alt Twitter is just as famous now. As their relationship grows, he lets down his guard and confesses that his real first name isn't Jake, but it's Leslie. And now Miley feels guilty for not being honest with the guy she's in love with, so she ends up revealing to him that she's really Hannah Montana. And oh, this is a cliffhanger, it was only a part 1. We have technology, so no week-long gap in between, we get to know the answers right now. You know, he takes it pretty well and is excited that she was so honest with him. As they then struggle in part 2 with all of the paparazzi following them around, ruining their dates, because he doesn't have a way to escape the cameras and fame like Miley does. When he tries to don a disguise himself, he's not used to the lack of treatment he gets when being famous. He even steals water from Miley Cyrus. Yeah, Miley's younger sister cameos here and there. This attitude and self-centeredness has Miley not really liking who Jake truly may be and wants to break up with him. Yikes, Jake, what happened to you? You're letting your relationship slip right through your famous fingers. But since she has a fear of her secret getting out, she wants to find a way for him to break up with her. Now she starts acting crass in public on their dates and causing quite the repulsed look from Jake, but he doesn't budge, just thinking that she's somehow jealous of him and how he's used to being treated as a celebrity and not hiding from the public. Miley has had it though and tells him that how he is acting is ridiculous and he can never quote unquote be a normal person. She opens up about worrying that he'll spill the beans on her secret if they do break up, to which he chooses a response that only makes things worse by saying, if that's the kind of person you think I am, then maybe I will tell your secret. So Jake sucks. I don't like Jake. But it's okay, because after this, Miley receives a note from Jake saying that he is trying to go and find himself and be a better person and figure out what being normal means and that Miley was right, yada yada yada, whatever. He makes sure to say that he won't reveal her secret and signs off at the end as Leslie instead of Jake. And Miley verbally and mentally tries to friend zone him, but we shall see if that's the last of Jake here. Robbie Ray has a new song for Hannah that he has written, but before he can play it for Miley, his special guitar is at the cleaners, literally. So Miley is impatient and really wants to hear this brand new amazing song that he has written, and when snooping around for the song, she ends up finding it, and it's all about these little bunnies, and it's both random and childish. She's frustrated at how bad the song is, but doesn't have the heart to break it to him, causing her to sleepwalk as her consciousness is not at ease clearly. This becomes a problem even at school, where she sleep talks and starts roasting the teacher and then almost spills the beans about her secret. She ends up telling Jackson about what happened. As she mentions how bad the song is, Robbie was listening in and is all sad now. Good going, Miley. That bunny song was not the real song though, but something that helps him to feel creative when it comes to the writing. And the real song is really good, and it goes on to become a huge hit. You gotta learn to trust Robbie a bit here. He's only steered you wrong a couple of times, like that birthday sweater, but songs, they're in his DNA. Now we enter a fun themed episode that featured different Disney Channel shows having some sort of wish go wrong called Wish Gonna Miss Weekend. That would include episodes of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Corey in the House, and Hannah Montana. All episodes here had no correlation to one another outside of a central theme. Miley is having a hard time dealing with the balance between Miley and Hannah, when there's a lot that she can't do for her Hannah side that gets taken up by her Miley side. Like when Jesse McCartney is trying to ask her to go out with him, but since she can't find the time to, he just moves along. That night, she sees a shooting star and makes a wish to only be Hannah Montana 24/7. And that wish comes true when she wakes up. Everything is as if Miley never existed in the first place. Even her hair is no longer a wig. It's everything she could have ever wished for. Oh yeah, that's because she actually did wish for it. Her bodyguard Roxy, or in this case her guardian angel here, takes her on a journey to see how life is like with only Hannah around. Well, let's see. Robbie married someone named Candace. Jackson has now gone to live off the land, being tired of people using him to get to Hannah. Oliver makes money with Rico selling sneak peeks of Hannah's house. And Lily is now ultra popular and friends with mortal enemies number 1 and 2, Ashley and Amber. Yikes, the horror. Miley is now stuck like Hannah in this reality. I mean, she wished for it, she must live it, despite now being extremely scared of it. So she does what she can do to pretend to be Miley as an alter ego to Hannah now, and tries to reach out to Lily, but things don't go over so well there, just kind of freaks Lily out. And she also finds out that Robbie's new wife, Candace, is only in it for the free stuff and the riches. And now fed up with everything, she ends up finding and talking talking to Jackson. And as she talks to him about the world before it is today, Jackson ends up making a wish to see that world where it wasn't about Hannah Montana all the time. And thanks to this reverses the wish. Her hair is just a wig again, and back now where we see her at the Shooting Star. Miley says that she loves her life and wishes for nothing to be changed. Miley as Hannah makes a new enemy in Michaela, played by Selena Gomez, and both of them are set to perform in the United People's Relief show coming up. Miley has to bring an A-game performance here to really stick it to Michaela for how she acts behind the scenes. Robbie ends up with a bad back injury thanks to Jackson's workout machine, and he doesn't want Miley to go to Florida alone. And you know, it can be a scary place. It's full of gators. But this guy is there, and I think this guy is pretty neat. I wouldn't mind getting lost with him. This fight between Miley thinking that she can go alone and Robbie not letting her is pretty severe, as she ends up going to Florida on her own regardless. Well, Roxy's there as well. Robbie and Jackson actually make their way to the flight before it leaves, but they can't get her off of it because the doors close, meaning that they all have to deal with this flight. And Jackson actually has a nice heart-to-heart with Robbie about him being too hard on her, just to try and keep her safe, and Roxy explains to Miley that her dad only does this stuff out of love. Of course, they end up working things out, she gets a new song out of this, and she is left to go to Florida on her own, well, with Roxy, as he'll get off at the next stop along the way. She ends up having a great performance and outshining Michaela. Oliver gets jealous of Lily always getting backstage access as Lola, and Miley finally invites him to come back with them, and he has a good time, but Lily is kind of annoyed that she has to share this privilege with Oliver now. And when an event comes up where Hannah is given one ticket to a celebrity tennis tournament that she is in, she has to pick only one of them. But Rico ends up having another ticket so they could all go, but because of Miley initially choosing Lily over Oliver, the whole time that they're there, they end up fighting, causing so much stuff to happen that ends up making Miley lose the match in the most ridiculous fashion of slapstick comedy you could ever come up with, and then Lily makes up with Oliver. Everyone is happy now, aside from Miley. She's probably miserable. Now, Lily's not much of a singer, and to that extent, she doesn't really know that, and she wants to record a special song for her mom's birthday, but it sounds awful, and Miley does some mixing to it to make it sound better, unbeknownst to her, and when she hears it, she legitimately thinks that she's a great singer, which seems harmless enough until she is now competing against Amber in karaoke. Miley tells her the truth and shows her the original recording, so the two now scheme up a plan where Lily will lip sync while Miley sings, but then a spider gets loose, and oh boy, I'm sure you can see how things get pretty bad from here. And I enjoy little smaller episodes like this where the conflict really isn't that big and everything wraps up in a fun way. Nothing is really consequential here at all. Now, while they may be back in more recent years, the Jonas Brothers were the 2000s. And the year 3000. But here, Miley runs into the Jonas Brothers, and they're more excited to see Robbie than they are to see Miley. In fact, Robbie ends up writing songs with the Jonas Brothers, building a bromance with them, as Miley starts getting upset that she can't spend time with her dad, as they're getting all the attention over her. So Miley, in disguise, sets up a fake call out of Robbie stealing their songs from them to persuade the Jonas Brothers away from him, but Robbie knows what's up, making her call the Jonas Brothers and explain that it was all a bad joke. And now that Miley and Robbie confirm with one another that of course nothing would change between them and their time together and their songwriting, which lands us in a collaborative song featuring Hannah and the Jonas Brothers. And did you know that there's a fourth Jonas brother? I just thought I'd let you know. The middle of the 2000s was the time of the first iPhone, so of course the show would have a play on it where Miley has this old O phone, but the Z phone is out and she needs it, but Robbie won't let her get it. But she still tells her Hannah friend Tracy that she has it, so Tracy doesn't go around blabbing around to all these other celebrities that she doesn't have it. Ugh, the drama. Oh, it's so palpable. If you don't have the latest model phone, who are you? I'm a no one. I use a BlackBerry Curve. In order for her to buy this phone on her own, even though she should be rich and maybe Robbie isn't handling her finances fairly as a child star, and that's a conversation for another time regardless if it's a lesson to teach her values, she ends up taking a fake photo with Lily to sell to the paparazzi for some quick cash, but she was wearing her Miley necklace and has to get this photo back, so they offer an embarrassing photo of The Rock instead. To do this, they end up getting inside of his hotel room. Yes, the actual Rock appears in this episode, and they get a picture of him getting fully pampered because I guess it's funny to take care of yourself and be muscular. But she knows how bad it feels to be unwillingly photographed, so she comes clean to The Rock and explains the situation somewhat, so then The Rock just bullies the paparazzi to get the photo back. Thanks, Dwayne the Fortnite Johnson. Oh look, Jake's back, and now he just wants to keep things as friends. And Hannah from last time is struggling with her feelings towards him, so she tries to keep it cool. But Michaela returns, and she's gonna be his new co-star and love interest for an upcoming upcoming film. So Miley, yeah, she tries to figure out a way to get her fired from this. And when all that doesn't work, she suits up as the alien pretending to be Michaela just so she can sneak in to be with Jake. So yeah, it looks like there's still a lot to deal with here when it comes to how she feels about Jake. Listen, all I'm saying is that it's time for Jake to go away, okay? We've had too much Jake. Miley is now finally a bit more open to Robbie dating, especially since the woman he is going to see is Lily's mom, here played by Heather Locklear, in the hopes that Miley and Lily would become sisters because of this. It's so exciting. But things don't go well on the date. Both of the girls blame each other's parents, and now a divide is happening between them. Look, sometimes dates don't go well. I don't have much insight to offer here for this, but of course the two girls make up in the end as friends. It's not their fault that their parents didn't work out, and it's just not time for love for Robbie yet. Maybe later, maybe season 4. Maybe we'll talk about it as season 4. It's grandmother v godmother as both Miley's relatives come to stay with her and show support for her winning a music award. But there's only one problem. They both absolutely loathe each other. And you want to know why they both hate each other? Well, it all started way back when they were in high school and Dolly stole Elvis, no, not Austin Butler from earlier, away from Ruthie. And to this day, it's still a massive sore spot for both of them. After a while of fighting, Miley says that you might as well both go home if that's how you're gonna act. So they try to get along for Miley's sake, but at the award show itself, the roasting each other just becomes too much and they actually begin to fight. Miley breaks it up, but later that night she makes sure that they know how much they let her down. But we need a nice happy ending, so they put aside their differences, hug it out, and sing some music. Have you ever heard the saying that the Backstreet Boys don't play baseball? Well, it's true because NSYNC does. Here, Joey Fatone guest stars playing Joey Vitolo, an ex-baseball player turned restaurant owner. Miley goes to see him after she wins a prize signed by Joey Baseball after Jackson ruins her favorite teddy bear, but then he goes and fixes it to where now she feels like she's a jerk and needs to replace the ball. He says no to Miley at first, but says yes to Hannah only if she sings and dances with him for a show, to Miley's misery. When Jackson finds out what happened and arrives seeing her do all of this, he feels that this embarrassment is payback enough. Joey gets a pie to his face, and for some reason when the whole famdamily goes to dinner at his restaurant, she dances with him again, gets the ball signed for Jackson, and Robbie reveals that he fake signed it originally himself, so this is better for everyone in the end, I guess. Miley's Uncle Earl comes to town and wants to be a rock star himself. He ends up accidentally breaking Miley's guitarist hand and now has to fill in for him. But he stinks at it, and a big mean music critic is going to be attending her upcoming concert. Rest in peace, Gilbert. And we get the story of her needing to somehow not have him do this, even though he's family. But he overhears her say all this and she goes to him explaining that she needs to impress this critic. But ultimately, she chooses family and has Earl play with her, and in the end, the critic actually liked it. It's another plot we've seen several times over, just reworked with different characters and swappable scenarios. Sensing a pattern. After a show, Robbie wants Miley and Jackson to stop at this specific diner on their way back home, while Miley is pretty reluctant because she wants to get back home to go to a Maroon 5 concert with her friends. But somehow, through the power of lightning, she gets sent back to the past and interacts with her father and mother at the same diner as time counts down to her and Jackson never existing if she doesn't help them get together. And when she does and comes back to modern day, she realizes the special reasons Robbie wanted to come to this diner, as he gets to then sit there and recount the tale of how he met their mother. That sounds like a decent show name. Anyway, I really like this little episode. It's a fun little story. It has touching emotions. It's good. Miley and Jackson, though, would now right away forget their father's birthday. That's right. Robbie turns 40 years old and the kids feel awful for forgetting, and they want to throw him a surprise party as they play it cool and still play dumb as he consistently tries to help them in remembering that he's 40 years old now. But when it's getting time for the surprise party, all the relatives seem to have forgot as well. Poor Robbie. So a bunch of random people are invited instead to the surprise party, and it's all okay, I guess. It's the thought that counts. Much like the Walk of Fame in Hollywood with all of the stars there, here Miley is getting a diamond on the Parade of Stars. So basically the same thing, but she hates the placement of it and speaks to these puppets whose spot it was originally going to be, while Jackson and Robbie end up hanging Rico upside down for his disrespect towards both of them at different points. It's a weird episode, but I guess it's enjoyable seeing Rico hung up. Hannah Montana's style is getting whack, yo. My name is Skylar White, yo. And this other singer tells Hannah that she needs to mix things up because because she is getting stale, and so will her career if she doesn't change her style just a bit. Her top solution? Become the opposite of herself, the anti-Hannah. Everyone is scared of it. The look is definitely something they're not used to. Her father makes comment about not changing who she is, but regardless, she shows off her new look at none other than the Sunshine Girls' benefit, and they actually dig it, but then start to go insane because it was all just a dream. And she follows her dad's advice to not change who she is and returns to the original Hannah Montana look. I think the lesson here is pretty obvious, but you know, look how you want to look. I don't care. Miley is so over Jake because she falls for this rich dude named Trey, who invites her to dinner with him and his parents, who turn out to be the judgy rich type poking fun and looking down at the country bumpkin lifestyle. And Miley tries to keep up and fit in to impress them, mentioning that she performed for the queen. Well, Miley didn't, but Hannah did, so that secret was almost blurted out once again. But another episode right away where Hannah needs to learn to be herself and not someone she's not, just with some different plot points. And I am sensing the show, again, is having a consistent pattern here of the same morals being told, just being slightly altered with the story points. But I digress. Oliver finally finds love, and it's with Joni, a rival of Lily more specifically, but they must all try and get along for the sake of Oliver and her relationship. But hey, look at that, Lily and Joni have a lot in common and get along really well. Actually, so well in fact that Miley is scared that they'll become best friends and Miley will be left with nothing, except all her fame and millions of fans. But what good is all of that if you don't have genuine friends? Everything is okay in the end between Lily and Miley like usual, but did you know that Jackson starts dating Rico's cousin, but then he can't stop seeing Rico when he's with her? And that's fun. Hey, Corbin Bleu is back and now is much more famous thanks to all the High School Musical hullabaloo. And here he wins a bidding war where the money goes to charity, but the winner gets a date with Hannah Montana. But he's not the only winner. Rico wins as well. It's a tie, and now she has to go on a date with both of them at the same time, but is clearly into Corbin's character Johnny, so Hannah focuses more time on trying to get Rico out of their date, so much so that she makes herself look so awful that Johnny ends up leaving. Rico ends up in the Lobsters, and for us, we end season 2 of Hannah Montana, and in my opinion, a lot weaker of a season where there are some standout moments and cameos, but a lot of reused, redone, and just plain out uninspired plots, where Miley or another character has to learn similar or the same lessons over and over again. But we still have a couple more seasons and a movie left to go, so maybe things go uphill from here, he says with hesitance in his voice.
Next, Miley Stewart as Hannah Montana say what? Hannah Montana as Miley Stewart say what? Say what?
Oh, yeah.
We can't make this video without talking about the music of Hannah Montana, right? Like we know, part of the conception of the show was building a pop star, and we see in the show just how much of a pop star she is, with constant new music being introduced that builds into a perfect album to be released, leading into tours that she can go on. In total, Hannah Montana produced 46 songs for the character throughout the 4 seasons the show ran, with a bunch of them being hit singles that would chart all on their own, and a discography of albums that range from standard show soundtrack albums to live albums to remix albums, you name it, they produced a version of Hannah's music for it. Back to back to back, the first 2 Hannah Montana soundtrack albums and the movie soundtrack album would release and peak at #1 on the charts, with the first 2 going triple platinum and the movie soundtrack going double platinum. Just like the viewership on the show and the success of the merchandise around it, Hannah Montana was really pushing hard in every category of entertainment out there. But while Miley was here holding up the talent, this was all created by Disney, and the success of the first album, with how massive it was, as far as we know, didn't really bring in all that much for Miley because of whatever contract deals there were in place. This was a whole family affair here. While Miley would work on the show with her father, her mother was her manager and would try and help navigate this space with her to not get left with a raw deal, which it certainly was feeling like. I mean, her name isn't the one the songs are credited for, and it released under the non-talent label, Walt Disney Records, instead of the Hollywood Records label that focuses on artists. Where were her royalties? For anything, it seemed. When the second album came out, it was a dual release, with part of it saying Meet Miley Cyrus, as it would have 10 Hannah Montana songs and then 10 songs from Miley. The tours that would happen from this were selling out everywhere the show went, and oh boy, it went. It was a 70-show tour, so not only was Miley acting in the show, performing the music for the show, and recording it for albums, but going on these massive tours when the show wasn't filming. That's an insane amount of work for anyone, let alone a teenager. These tours would bring in a killing, bringing in $70 million alone on the Best of Both Worlds tour, which was turned into a 3D film for a theatrical release, meaning more money for a tour that had already happened and made its initial money. Tours are where artists make a killing back on their work for an album, especially if they're with a label. But rather than making tens of millions at minimum, Miley would make only $1 or $2 million of that total profit, which, hey, you or me would probably take that in a heartbeat right now. But when you get into the show of work Miley was putting in, and it relying on her performances, a larger cut probably would have made sense here. But this wasn't a Miley Cyrus concert.
Okay, well, in some parts it was.
This was a Hannah Montana concert. The name, the person, the whole experience they are coming to see is a manufactured celebrity pop star at the end of the day by Disney. But even worse than this, even if they were there for Miley Cyrus, she didn't own her name. It was her stage name, as at the time Miley's real name was Destiny Hope Cyrus. So after the Hannah Montana movie, where there is a big focus on Miley stepping away from Hannah and performing her own new music, she would leave behind performing as Hannah, as well as earlier in 2008, before even filming the movie, she legally changed her name from Destiny Hope Cyrus to Miley Cyrus. So now her stage name would act as one, a legal contract-based loophole for deals as under Miley Cyrus before. Well, that person on documents didn't really exist, and now this could open up the door for Miley to operate officially as Miley in other avenues, like making her own music away from Hannah Montana, and this time done regularly through Hollywood Records. From there, it was an interesting battle to break free from the world of Disney, after the show would come to an end and Miley was becoming an adult. But before we continue looking into that, let's continue through the rest of the show now with Season 3 of Hannah Montana. Time to start Season 3 is what I would say if I didn't withhold the fact from you that there was a banned episode of Hannah Montana. Yeah, that's right. Well, kind of. Originally, this was going to be the season finale episode of Season 2, but it was pulled, re-edited, and released way later on in 2009. So in this episode, it's revealed that Oliver has been secretly dealing with diabetes, so Miley and Lily feel like they need to be extra nice to him and always be trying to cheer him up. But a party they take him to for Tracy is all candy and sweets themed, which freaks them out for bringing Oliver there, and so they try to make sure that he doesn't have any inklings or temptations of wanting it and cause a massive scene, forcing them to reveal to Oliver that they know about what's going on with him. And while he appreciates them looking out for his health and well-being, he mentions how it works for him, where he can still have sugar, but he just has to be a lot more careful about how much he consumes, dealing with his blood sugar levels and insulin levels. Why was it so controversial? Well, the Children with Diabetes nonprofit organization felt that the jokes and just in general the episode's themes were in poor taste and not relaying the accurate information around such a widespread real situation that so many people face. Mitchell Musso mentioned that they did have some small reshoots here to help retool it in editing, but it just kind of became this random episode that exists now. Okay, now we can start Season 3. Lily has a crush on Jackson. That's weird. Miley also thinks it's weird, and you should too. Jackson likes her back as well. That's more weird, but Miley lies to them and says that they both don't like each other. That is, until Hannah has to go on this TV show and ends up admitting that they do like each other, and they almost kiss, but Miley wakes up and it was all a dream. They really don't like each other, and the start of the season was a fake out episode, so hooray. Man, time sure does fly. Miley's already going for her driver's license, and she wants to be the first in her class to get it. She got this brand new car, she's excited to do this, but the instructor gets in her car and messes it up right away. So she gets angry at it and instantly fails because of this. But thanks to Lily and then Oliver, who telephoned it to the whole school, everyone is under the impression that she did get her license. She also plays into this once Amber reveals that she got her license too, making her the actual first one to do so. Miley then ends up retaking the test as Hannah so that she can take the test faster, passes, and now has a license but under Hannah Montana and not Miley, so when she gets pulled over as Miley, she gets arrested. And her only way out is to bribe the officer and her Hannah Montana fan daughter that she really is Hannah like it says on the license and that this is all her big secret. She sings to prove that it's all true and they promise to keep her secret. But of course Robbie isn't happy about all of this and doesn't let her drive to this one party, dropping her off there just to embarrass her in front of everyone as a lesson. Remember, it's always okay to bribe a cop, as long as it's fake and in a sitcom for the Disney Channel. Alright, now this episode really is relatable to me now, as I've been having fun at the dentist recently, and Miley gets to as well. She ends up breaking her tooth and she's pretty frightened by the dentist. For me though, my dentist is pretty cool. She just asked me about Pokemon Go while poking around in my mouth. It's a nice conversation, you could imagine. Eventually here, Miley does toughen up and goes through with her dental visit. It's not much deeper than that, it's just a dentist. Hannah wants more of her money for her allowance, but is scared to ask Robbie as he isn't being lenient on giving more of anything to anyone, like a later curfew for Jackson. So to her surprise, when she gets the courage to actually ask him, gets $5,000, hooray! Jackson uses this moment to also get his curfew pushed back, since he thinks that he's now being generous, and it worked out, and he can go to this party with some friends. So that's cool. Or was it all a test? Miley thinks so, as she knows that she must be responsible with the money, but quickly gets irresponsible when it comes to buying makeup. But it never was a test. She's responsible enough to make decisions to be responsible for herself and not for him. However, he was kind of testing Jackson, who to his surprise was in front of the house and never left, as something was holding him back. Robbie is surprised by this, and now he's allowed to go and is given his cell phone back that he initially lied about not losing, which made him seem irresponsible in the first place. And everyone learned something, I think, maybe. I didn't. It's the Christmas season. No, it's March. But if you're watching this during the Christmas season, then hey, this episode will fit right in, as we're going Christmas shopping with the girls at the mall, as we see Oliver reject a girl for having too small of feet. Okay, weird. But Miley doesn't get not being into someone for physical attributes. This person named Connor agrees and asks Miley to go to a carnival with him, so she says yes. But then when he stands up, he's pretty short. And now Miley has to go through with this date with a short king, or face being a hypocrite. It seems that they do have a good time, though, regardless of what others think, but this all may be her coping. And by the end of the night, he goes in for a kiss, but she rejects it, and he understands why, feeling let down that he's only been seen for his height once again. She wants to make things right and apologize to him, sneaking into his work at the mall as an elf, and after speaking, it seems that they may go on a date once more. Who knows? Merry Christmas. Spoiler alert, they don't. The class field trip episode, it's really about time. And no, I'm not talking about Crash Bandicoot 4. But it costs money to go on the trip to DC, and Lily doesn't have enough money, having to sell off some of her stuff in order to go, and doesn't want Miley's help at all. She doesn't want to use her for her easier access to money. Miley does everything from trying to pay off the teacher to being Hannah to help raise money for her, and Lily's uncomfortable with all of this. It is until a random person buys a hat off her for a lot of money, and so now on her own she can afford to go. But she later finds out that it was Miley behind the whole setup, and it was only out of the love for her to go, as she sees her as a sister. Very sweet, very wholesome, but if someone is uncomfortable with you paying for something for them, maybe respect their wishes, or just make a deal that it becomes an IOU or something, I don't know. Oliver is feeling like a failure, seeing his friends succeed like Miley getting cast in a movie, while his band fails an audition to perform at the school dance. Everything's going great for Miley, heck, her music's even going double platinum. So to make him feel better, she tries failing a movie audition by being the worst, but it backfires and the attitude is what they're looking for. She ends up giving up this whole role to make Oliver feel better, and after that gets exposed to Oliver after she lies and says that she just lost the role, Oliver sees this as a big gesture and is just gonna cope with the successes that Miley has from here. Again, just support your friends. Not everything goes your way, and true friends are there for you in those moments, but be there for them in their highs and they'll be there for yours. And your lows. A carrot a day keeps the doctor away, but Miley dressed as a carrot eating a carrot is cannibalism. Jordan Fringe, 2023. Wow, maybe I have influence in saying that. Just like Miley has influence when she says she hates carrots, causing fans to no longer eat carrots. When she mentions only watching movies instead of reading books, which is valid and relatable, others follow suit. She then later has to go on to explain that whatever she does or doesn't like should have no effect on what you, yourself, like or don't like. Another small lesson, a fun little episode, and another point for movies over books. Just saying. Unless we're talking Animorphs. She's a starfish. Hannah accidentally takes out her choreographer, knocking her out of a window and causing her and Robbie to have to look for a new one for now. The person they end up finding just becomes friends with Robbie, and turns out to be a strict and mean choreographer. He's only nice to Robbie. So now what's Miley to do? Ruin her dad's new friendship or her rehearsals for her dance? Oh, and then this guy also saves Robbie's life at one point. Hannah is literally being controlled like a puppet. Robbie steps in to get revenge by doing the same to him, sacrificing his friendship. Oliver is having issues with Joni and thinks about breaking up with her, but he's terrified of her. So the plan here is simple, and one that we've seen before with other characters. He needs to find a way to make her break up with him. This almost almost works, but he ends up coming clean about it anyway, exposing his true feelings, and breaks up with her, and he just ends up beating himself up while Joni can't even get a word in to say anything. Love is weird, and unlove is weirder. It's the Teen Scene Awards, and Hannah Montana is there with another singer, Austin Rain, in which they have a huge hit duet song together. And they look like a great couple on camera, but off camera, they can't stand each other and have to keep up this facade for the label until the record hits a certain amount of sales. Oh, the music industry, how I love you. Miley catches Jackson at school and beyond trying to cheat in general to pass his classes and tries to give him advice on not to do that. But why would he take advice from someone willingly lying to their fans to sell records? Which it takes her a bit to see her own real mistakes in all of this. But on an interview, Miley confesses an alphabet list of reasons of how she feels about Austin and explains that the record label made her do this. And I was on her side for all of this until she exposes Austin's real name and he says that was a secret between them, which I think she is pretty hypocritical for that since she would feel beyond broken if her secret got out. But whatever, Jackson eventually though learns to not cheat as Miley helps him get past all this. So what I learned is that you shouldn't be a hypocrite, but it's okay to be a hypocrite if the person or thing you're hypocriticaling is ultimately a bad thing, that you're turning into a good thing. That made sense. Now this gives me some reverse Hey Arnold vibes when Helga fakes some amnesia. I made a 7.5 hour long Hey Arnold video and I still haven't recovered. But here Jackson gets hit in the head and initially suffers from some amnesia. So Miley tricks him into constantly being nice and hyping Miley up, and then she starts getting tired of this once it starts working against her for having some boys she's into around, as Jackson's becoming too much and being a detriment to this, repelling them away and annoying Miley to no end. So then she spends time trying to get him to remember his real memories instead, but then it's all revealed that he was faking it, and how fun. Even more fun is that Rico's cousin comes around, who is also played by Moises Arias, and this is similar to when Miley's cousin Luann came around, who was also played by Miley, and that's a neat gag, I like it. Mama's back in town when Robbie heads out to see his old band. She ends up coming to school, and because of her tossing a thermos to Jackson, they take out the lunch lady. But Mama flirts with the principal, and now she gets a job as the lunch lady, ruining their lives with embarrassment, becoming super strict with food and making everyone suffer from the food choices. So now they have to find a way to get her out of the school kitchen for good, with this whole fake health inspector gag, which is just Jackson in disguise. But his fake nose ends up melting to reveal that it was Jackson this whole time, and the plan is ruined, kind of. She ends up quitting anyway, but for the reasons of being sad that it was from them wanting her to be gone so badly. Then they talk it out, she may still be dating the principal or something's going on between them, and school lunch was saved thanks to the Stewart siblings. Miley's been gone for a while shooting a movie. Yes, the same one that she quit for Oliver some episodes back, but then re-accepted the role because of a co-star casting in it. And when she gets back home and is greeted by her friends and goes to change, Oliver and Lily lean in for a big old kiss and Miley catches them and internally shrieks in terror, being stunned at what she is seeing and hearing them talk about this being a secret that they want to keep from Miley. But she reveals to them that she knows about this. Oliver and Lily then have a fight about how they actually came together as a couple, both having different stories relating to the music that was playing as they danced. So Miley does what a Miley does and starts fixing their disagreements by making a fake movie based on the Indiana Jones-like movie parody that she was actually filming, to then prove a point that their argument is petty and Miley really wants them to at least be friends and be a couple if that's what makes them happy. So now the friends are a couple and Miley's a movie star. Interesting. Let's come back to that later. Prom is coming up and Miley doesn't have a date and is hoping that this one certain guy would ask her out, but instead a nerdier kid asks her out to prom after Miley is nice to him after she sees him getting rejected. So she feels compelled to say yes, but David Archuleta, you know, the David Archuleta, the runner-up for the 7th season of American Idol, well, he asks her to come record with him that same night, but she has obligations to go to the prom with this nerdier kid. It would make this whole kid's day to have a date to the prom, whereas if she doesn't go to this recording session, David's cool with that. It would only be for her selfishness to go and do that. Miley almost goes through with breaking it to the kid, but then she sees how sweet he and his family are, but then she still ends up breaking his heart. Wow. Ruthless. At the recording, Miley starts getting second thoughts. She ends up rushing home to change and heads over to the kid's house to make his night special, and it's kind of really sweet as we see these prom photos. Anyway, there's no time to feel emotion. Miley gets pretty sick of being around her friends as they are annoyingly madly in love. So they go on a double date, giving Miley a blind date where almost everything said triggers a memory of this guy's ex, ruining the date for Miley, and now it all feels helpless again. Now as Hannah, she learns about Tracy's phobo, or fake boyfriend, and after she just wanted to get her friends off her back trying to force her to find a significant other, even though she's headstrong on being independent, she ends up hiring a phobo to help her out, but the one she specifically wanted is busy, and instead we get a different different person for Miley's double date here to get her friend off her back about finding a relationship. This fake boyfriend is a fun caricature who ends up not sticking to the script of the fake moving away story that they had planned, and he doesn't want to leave until Miley bribes him off since she has a nice place, and he just wants the coffee maker. Oh, well, then he gets too greedy and asks for the TV, and then gets a plant to the face instead. The trio agree to not continue this boyfriend search for Miley, and she will find the right one when she's ready. And it looks like that time to be ready is now, as Jake is back. Oh boy, we just can't shake this character, can we? But he ends up being with Tracy. Oh no, what a surprise. The tea. Ooh. And they're also getting married, okay? Hannah tries to convince Jake to not get married so fast, and since they're both young, if you love each other this much, that in a few years you can consider it then. And I didn't know I needed Disney to tell me not to get married as a teenager. It would have saved me a ton in the divorce. I lost half my Funko Pops. Also, the marriage is happening tonight because they're all in Vegas. And what happens in Vegas, it usually turns into regret afterwards. Miley still tries her best to stop this marriage from happening, but is it for their own good, or is there feelings Miley still has deep down for Jake? And at the altar, she stops them and convinces them not to get married, and they agree quickly because they were on the hit TV show Gotcha, which is just like punked, as it was all an elaborate setup to get Miley in this prank. So now Jake and Miley talk about this as they are still good friends, I guess, but her real emotions come out. She kisses him, and who knows what's to come of their on and off relationship. Miley, Oliver, and Lily are at a radio station as Oliver is working there for a part-time job. But when the host has to leave because his wife is going into labor, Oliver is forced to join in to host the radio station to fill the dead air. At first, he isn't so great, but he starts getting used to it as Miley joins him as a co-host, turning the show into a fun advice call-in session where both of them offer differing opinions and having some small fun arguments that create great entertainment on the airwaves. The main host is out for an extended period of time, and Oliver needs Miley around to do the show early in the mornings, and a chance for them to get their own show that can really change Oliver's life. And as a good friend who is already overworked from all the Hannah stuff and school stuff, she tries to balance it all out. And of course, this gets exhausting, and she can't even make it in time for Oliver, where she rolls in late to the show. She starts becoming sleep deprived, much like me working on this video. Hit drop a like, or you legally smell worse than you look. I'm sorry, that was mean. I think you're pretty cool. Anyway, they only want Oliver for the special Sunday show now and not Miley, so things worked out, I guess. Oh wow, a full hour-long special? How neat! I love specials, especially in the hour-long variety. And double especially when it's about boy trouble. Jake is back again. And they are officially dating, but Robbie wouldn't be the ideal person to accept that right now. So there's this guy Jesse who plays in the band for Miley. That's this bad boy who is into Hannah, but she rejects him as she is hiding the whole Jake thing from everyone until her friends find out. But to make Jake look good to her dad so he can ease the concept of Jake back around where Robbie doesn't hate him for originally breaking his daughter's heart, there would need to be a better plan than just revealing this to him in a not so ideal way where he is just upset now that she hid something from him, and their relationship kind of turns pretty distant here as father-daughter. At rehearsal, Robbie tells off Jesse for his bad boy ways with women and his work ethic. So maybe dating this bad boy in a Phobo situation, at least that's the original plan, may work to flip the script and be all like, wow, Jake is so much better than Jesse, right? Well, he figures this out instantly and plays into it. Jesse, however, doesn't like being used like this and leaves. It's an awkward situation all around. Robbie and Miley have a talk about Jake and letting Miley have her life choices like this, but Miley then sees a mopey Jesse and apologizes to him for trying to use him, but he genuinely had an interest in her, and then blurts out that he does like her. And it all comes up to a to be continued because I lied. It was another dramatic two-parter special to keep you on the edge of your seat for what happens next. So here's what happens next. Miley doesn't know how to take this as she is committed to Jake and thinks that he's the one, and somehow that turns into a lyric for these two to end up writing a full song together and start having some electric real chemistry. Uh-oh, Miley may just like this Jesse guy. This is really important, guys. Jake or Jesse? She's even seeing Jesse's face on Jake's body. Miley's all conflicted now. She can't get Jesse out of her head, even at rehearsal making them all wear animal fursuit heads, becoming the Hannah Montanimals to hide seeing Jesse's face. Miley tells Jesse that she's attracted to him but can't do anything about it because she loves Jake. Jesse is a heartbreaker, but he says it's different with Miley and puts on the extra charm. But as Miley makes note that she does want to kiss him but won't do it, Jake walks in and overhears this, and now both boys await her decision of who she actually loves. Who will she choose? Robbie shows Miley a video of her mom who pre-recorded a video talking about about boy trouble for whenever she truly needed it. She says you need to trust your heart. It always has the right answer. So in the end, she chooses Jake, breaking any romantic feelings towards Jesse as he understands this, and she just goes to Jake and pounces on him for a really abrupt ending. But there was an alternate ending for this episode, one in which she doesn't pick Jake and goes off to Jesse, not dressed as Hannah, exposing her secret to Jesse and wanting to be with him. But that didn't happen, so whatever. So I guess the right answer from the heart was both, but here only picking one of them for the main episode and the other one for the alternative reality. Another 3-part triple crossover classic. The Wizards on deck with Hannah Montana. Ooh, that with is doing a lot of the lifting there to tack itself on. But yes, the 3 shows come together for one episode in each of the respective series, with the first part being from Wizards of Waverly Place, the second from The Sweet Life on Deck, and the third, Hannah Montana. And while Selena Gomez is here as her character of Alex Russo from Wizards, she does also play Michaela earlier on in the show. So isn't a big old connected universe with a lot of inconsistencies really fun? Nickelodeon sitcoms would agree with this. While Hannah and Lily make their entrance to this in the part 2 episode for The Sweet Life on Deck, where Cody remembers that he knows Hannah from that one time she was at the Tipton from that crossover event and wants to get some tickets to her performance from her for him and Bailey, who is a massive fan, but when doing so, she claims not to remember him, and that's tough. After he tries a bunch of different ways to acquire these tickets, a certain site makes her remember him, kinda, and gives them the tickets. Now for the Hannah Montana episode itself, they're docked in Hawaii, and Miley lost her lucky anklet that her mom gave her, but Mr. Mosby has acquired said anklet that London Tipton wants, and after some convincing will just hold on to it until someone claims it. Hannah notices that London has it, and even Zach gets tangled into this for a moment as he tries macking on Hannah, but he gets sent away and she goes to talk to London about the anklet, but of course she won't give it up because she likes it. But then Miley says, oh, those diamonds are fake. So London's reaction to this is to scream and drop it into the ocean, and now Miley is heartbroken over this. Luckily, Robbie has a talk with alternative color scheme choice on Smash Bros. Hannah Montana here, and it helps her realize that her mom is always there with her in her heart and not just that anklet. So she rocks out the show, and that's it. Some fun bloopers at the end, and that's pretty cute. At least this crossover actually felt like they were crossing over a little bit more here. It's a skiing trip, and Miley gets hurt as we cut away to some footage of totally not Miley getting pretty warped wiping out on the mountain. Jeez, Disney, this isn't Scarred. Now, in the hospital, she imagines herself outside of her body and can hear what everyone around her is saying. So Miley just stands around commenting on her family and friends as they treat her in various different ways from cringe to pain. When Oliver is alone with Miley, Oliver says, I love you to her, and Miley doesn't know what to do when she is up about this. So as a good friend, she ends up telling Lily, specifically that Oliver doesn't love her, geez, a little harsh there, laying it on thick, and proves that she heard everything that happened around her. Miley then has her almost kiss a random dude as Oliver was walking into the area, as he then says that he does love Lily, and that he never meant the I love you to Miley, but it was him practicing building up the courage to say it to Lily. Classic misunderstanding. Jackson's getting ready for college, specifically looking into community college, but he interrupts Hannah's phone interview where things get heated about how gross Jackson is, and everyone hears about it. But Jackson makes note that people in a specific town know the truth of Hannah's brother. I guess we shall figure out that whole town that knows the truth thing here pretty soon. But I'm not there yet, okay? Slow down. Throughout the episode, some embarrassing information about Hannah starts getting put out on the internet, so Miley thinks it's Jackson getting payback for the phone call, but this payback causes Jackson to lose his potential college girlfriend. As then we find out that it wasn't Jackson, but it was accidentally Lily, as Lola, who tried bragging to Tracy that she knows Hannah better. So now Miley has some making up to do for Jackson, but he's more mad that Miley thought that he would ever cross this line to ruin her Hannah reputation like that. And Jackson sometimes here shows maturity. Not often, but it's nice to see. They make up. It's a good day. Mama's back in town and drove across country in a poor condition, falling apart car. So they all surprise her by trading in that old car for a brand new model, for her own good and safety. But Miley's big-brained idea here ends up backfiring when she is mad about this. Mama loved that old car. It has all these sentimental memories attached to it. So now she has to go back and get it. But uh-oh, that old car is already junked. Luckily, the guy there happens to have one that looks just like it. That's a little convenient. So now they gotta make it look as much like the original as possible, spending a lot of time doing so, and they end up surprising Mamaw with it, who seems extremely happy to see it. But as she gets in, she realizes that this isn't her original car, but didn't let the others know aside from Miley, who comes back out to talk to her. She explains that it was too late to get the original back, but Mamaw appreciates the efforts that they went through to recreate it. And then she just ends up taking the new car that they got her anyway. I mean, what was the whole point then if you were just gonna take the dang car? Miley is a special guest guest judge on America's Top Talent, where at the table the judges parody American Idol. Oliver ends up auditioning to Hannah's surprise, covering fake Simon in Spit. The performance was great and the judges love him too. Miley struggles to not be weird about all this though, but his talents do net him a bunch of admiration and fame, especially from a bunch of girls that now want to get all of his attention, making Lily jealous of all of this, and she just wants the regular old Oliver back. Lily thinks that Miley should vote him off the show, but she has to be fair to the show and fair to Oliver's talents, so Lily makes an ultimatum about not being Miley's friend if she doesn't vote him off the show. Jeez, Lily. And now for Oliver to move into the semifinals in a once-in-a-lifetime chance, he must get all 3 judges to vote for him, and the other 2 vote yes, leaving Hannah tasked with letting him go on and continue his career or destroying it right now. Lily, though, gives an okay nod from the sidelines to not vote him off, and he passes and goes through, where he then realizes that Lily left as he's focusing on his career and not her. And okay, I could break this down deeply, and I will, kinda. Look, Lily should be supportive of him, and Oliver should not get lost in the sauce with the attention from all those girls, because clearly he isn't just focusing on his career here. He's enjoying the admiration from all the girls that he gets, and it's a running trope that he keeps randomly mentioning even though he's been dating Lily. So both of them could have been better and yada yada yada, it's not that deep. But he comes back to Lily and apologizes. Maybe she should have tried harder to communicate with him about all this and apologize too, but whatever. Semantics. It's Lily's birthday and Oliver's sick, so she has no one to spend the day with since Miley is stuck in an airport trying to get home. And maybe there's a way to jump the line to get on another flight if Hannah Montana could show up and get special celebrity treatment. But a fan recognizes Robbie Ray instead of Hannah and offers to drive them to their connecting flight in Tucson, Arizona. And the adventure goes hog wild from there when the truck breaks down and they have to borrow a motorcycle. Then they meet Freddie's mom from iCarly, who also knows Robbie Ray, and then apparently she has a plane to fly them back home. But when they aren't allowed to land, they just end up jumping from the plane. They make their way back just in time to see Lily for at least the tail end of the night, but she had already had a fun time on her birthday at a Lakers game with Jackson, and all is saved. Miley is trying out voicing a cartoon duck with her co-star Lucas, aka Fred from YouTube, who even does a Fred voice for the mouse character here. Early YouTubers breaking into the spotlight, there was nothing like it. She ends up not being great at it, and Lucas, who plays Kyle here, helps set Miley up with a duck to learn how to act like a duck properly to prepare for the role. But even after all this, she still can't get it right and leaves knowing that she's not fit for this, until she ends up hearing everything she needs from the principal who is sick, going back in and nailing it a third time, getting the perfect voice, trying to prove that she can do it, but it's not perfect enough for the role. So just know that you can work really hard, try your best, and sometimes still fail, but it's important that you get back up and keep going for it, whatever your goal is, man. Lily gets a job at a Subway-like store. I worked at a Subway a long time ago. Don't ask me how the tuna's made, allegedly. But Lily isn't that great on her first day, and an angry line forms behind Miley there, which leads to things getting pretty out of hand, and she gets fired. She was trying to save up for this car along with Oliver, and I guess that goal is dead. But back at the Stewart residence, Jackson keeps the place, and especially his rooms, such a mess that no housekeeper stays that long, so Lily offers to take the job and ends up cleaning their house. And hey, she's actually really great at it, but she starts getting a little too detailed with it, where nothing's allowed to get dirty for even a second. While Robbie is extremely happy about everything here, Miley is getting more so annoyed by the second, and Robbie even gives her a raise. Jackson is mad about this, but for a different reason. It's because his room is clean, and he likes it messy on purpose. Miley and Jackson dress up in disguise, as Miley plays Lily's godmother, as now they enter her old sandwich shop trying to get the manager to give her old job back. And after threatening him, he ends up going to do so. But Lily walks in and sees them in disguise, as she was trying to go get her old job back as well because she felt weird about cleaning their house. And so everyone's just happy about this, except for Robbie. Poor guy. Lily is having some issues with her mom, specifically because her mom got a job in Atlanta and is going to have to move, and she doesn't want to go because she doesn't want to leave Oliver and Miley. Miley offers Lily to move in with her. Robbie says she's family.
You're family.
Even though a few episodes ago when at the airport there's a clip of him specifically saying that she's not family, so
She's not family.
what is it, Robert Raymond? And now Lily is full on moved in, and Jackson hates this. And Miley starts disliking this as well because Lily is always on the phone with Oliver or making noise at odd hours, and Lily ends up overhearing Miley the next morning and is saddened to hear how much of a burden she is, being fully moved out by the time Miley gets home from some Hannah stuff that she was doing, and is now moved in with her dad. But Miley shows up there giving her an apology, things get worked out between them, everyone moves back in together, how adorable. Wait, we're in Crowley Corners, Tennessee? We've heard of this place before, but only in a mention, huh? Feels like there's just some sort of, I don't know, theatrically released movie that slots itself somewhere in between the third season here to answer some of these plot holes. Weird. But here, Miley wakes up from the nightmare about abandoning this horse and this place in Tennessee. Anyway, Jackson feels ready to move out and be on his own, and Miley gets the horse from Tennessee over to Malibu. And Jackson goes and gets his own nice bachelor pad apartment. But the horse here is causing a lot of problems in Malibu for Miley. It's not in its natural environment. And in her dreams, she envisions herself as the horse, having this weird want to go back to Tennessee, you know, where she's from, and she tells Robbie that she wants to move back there. And guess what? It's a to be continued. Yes, that's right. It's another two-parter. Let's go. Robbie tries to understand this decision. A lot of this can be influenced by a thing called a movie. Nah, hold your horses. This horse specifically. We'll get there in a second. Robbie agrees that moving back could be a thing, but leaving Lily weighs heavily on Miley. And you know, we just had this plot literally an episode ago where Lily was going to have to move, and then you offered to keep her there, and then now you're going to move, and why don't you just bring Lily? She ends up breaking to Lily that she is moving back to Tennessee, and then Oliver breaks the news to her that he is going on tour with this massive band to open for them. So wow, that just sucks for Lily. And Lily here actually learns that lesson of supporting Oliver, which is nice, and she understands Miley needs to go back home, but then the waterworks come, and saying goodbye is hard. What's gonna happen? Will there be a part 3? No, we get our answers now. And Jackson also admits to wanting to come back and living with them, and especially excited to go back to Tennessee as he hates just living in this apartment. And now to really think on everything, Miley hops on her horse. We get a nice montage. It's all emotional. There's some Hannah Montana music playing, and then she talks with Robbie. She decides that she wants to stay here and not move to Tennessee. And Robbie, well, he knew that this answer would come, so he bought this massive ranch in California that is big enough for everyone to live at and gives her that hometown feeling she's in search of. Oliver says goodbye to them before he leaves for the tour, and Miley gives that signature kiss goodbye to the old house. This really feels like it could be the series finale, and it's a fun, emotional ending to season 3. And while season 3 had a lot of not so great episodes in my opinion, I did think it was more exciting than season 2, but a little too romance heavy with some more reused plots. But the one thing that makes it feel a bit disjointed is the fact that the movie exists and we need to talk about it, so I figure that before we jump into the final season of the show, we should take a moment and go through the movie and what it contains to fill in the gaps of things we lightly touched on.
Say what? Hannah Montana will be right back. Let's get back to Hannah Montana on Disney Channel.
Hannah Montana, the movie event of 2009. They kept it classy to sell it by simply just titling it Hannah Montana the Movie, rather than the several other ideas that they had, like Family Reunion, Ultimate Choice, Where It All Began, amongst some of the other options. But what was important was that the film was marked as being this big drama, the struggle with being Hannah versus Miley, going back to her roots in Tennessee. And you see why I mentioned so many things in season 3 that reference and tie into the movie? Well, the movie takes place in the late middle half of season 3, where storylines will carry over from this lightly, so canonically, to understand them, that's when you should watch the film. At least before the reference Jackson makes to the whole town knowing her secret identity. Outside of that line, the other stuff is easy to just pick up without needing to directly see the film. While there are some major moments in the film, none of them end up having this long-lasting effect on the series. So rather than some big events that changes the Hannah Montana series as a whole, it's just a little side mission with minimal baggage. This release, which is just about 14 years old, was also heavily backed by a new Hannah Montana album where the film would be full of new music, but not just from Hannah, but from Miley as well, where her hit song Climb was released and heavily pushed, but here, not under Hannah, under Miley. So sure, maybe there was a larger incentive with this movie because of the album to push it, but was the film itself good? And like I said, the marketing would make you think that this was going to be a tough, world-shattering moment if she can or cannot live on as Hannah after this. And what we know is that there's more to season 3 beyond this film, and a season 4 where the secret isn't out. So why don't we just see what happened in the film overall? We start with a backstage look at how Hannah sneaks into her concert to perform the classic show theme song, and that's classy. We meet our main antagonist as well, who is this British journalist that is getting dangerously close to capturing her secret. Also, Hannah is just really busy with fighting Tyra Banks. But also she's too busy for Lily, whose birthday party is about to happen this afternoon, and she's already pissing off Robbie by missing Jackson, who is heading to the airport to head to Tennessee for college. So already missing that and her heading to show up at the party as Miley, she gets tangled up by having to show up as Hannah because that creepy journo is following them. So now as Hannah, she does this special performance at the party that kind of pisses off Lily a bit, taking the attention away from her and her party. Things keep getting worse here as Robbie is sad and mad about Miley's behavior recently. From the shoe fight to missing her brother's flight out to college to say see you later, and the fact that she's just going to go to New York now for the music awards and miss her grandma's birthday. But the jet that was supposed to take her to New York really took her to Tennessee as Jackson picks them up as a surprise. Miley is extremely not okay with this, but Robbie is thinking that she needs to put Hannah away, and we can find out in 2 weeks if this is still an option that she has going forward now after getting to spend time as Miley back in her old life in Tennessee. And Robbie ain't playing around. But of course, we need some sort of romance in this movie, regardless if it won't matter to the show, as we meet Travis Brody, an old friend who's had a crush on Miley and has been helping tend to the horses on the ranch, including her horse, the one that we see come at the end of season 3. The extended family back home is having a great time as Miley is struggling to get into the spirit during their grandma's birthday party. For the record, that's 2 birthday parties in the movie, and it hasn't even been a half an hour into the film yet. But as we spend time on this farmland, Miley does all the emotional deep soul searching while trying to readjust to this life that she can. And then she spots the creepy journo that has made it to the town and is looking for her. Well, for Hannah, not Miley, and he's also there to have too much salsa, and he's going nuts, or rather slipping on them. While this slapstick here is really silly, I think this dude deserves it. He truly gives me the ick, and I just gave myself the ick by saying ick. Luckily, he gets put through a lot of manure throughout the film, literally. She spends the movie also coming up with The Climb, and Marshall Mathersing it together as the country boy here gives her advice on how to write this song with some meaning behind it. What story does it tell about Miley? Robbie also finds some romantic Tennessee side piece, and oh, is that Taylor Swift? That's so cool. Miley then also performs as herself during this hoedown, shindig, something or other, and Lily ends up coming to town disguised as Miley, as this town needs saving, being on the collapse of financial ruin. Robbie is the last to know about this plan and only is okay with it once his new fling is super excited about Hannah being there and can use her for this one benefit thing that she needs to throw. This Travis fella tells Hannah that she likes Miley, and she mentions that he could ask her out, and when he does, she makes this face, and now the whole best of both world problems start happening again here with Hannah, as when Lily was Hannah, she made a promise to be at this special event for Lorelai, meaning that it overlaps with her date with Travis. But she tries doing that, running between both engagements thing, risking being caught, but making sure to appease both things happening. This results in Miley being seen transforming her outfit in front of a little girl who is a big fan, as well as Travis getting hurt by Miley in the world's longest rotating door. Seriously, this thing goes on for so long, as Travis doesn't know what to believe about Hannah or Miley or whatever they are at this point. It's a lot going on. Hannah also ruined Robbie's love interest dinner thing, resulting in Robbie, to protect Miley and the secrets, breaking things off with Lorelai, and Hannah feels just so awful about this. Both Miley and Robbie sing about it as they wallow in their sorrows together. And now for this big fair where there's going to be the big concert, we build up to the grand finale of the film. Hannah takes stage and starts performing. Things are going well. The hits just keep coming, but then it hits her. She stops the show to talk to the crowd, going on to the hundreds of people there that she could no longer be Hannah, and reveals to her hometown that she is really Miley Stewart. Travis in the crowd respects this. Lorelai understands why Robbie was acting weird to protect Hannah, but now instead of Hannah continuing to perform, Miley performs a song as herself called The Climb. And oh baby, did this song sure climb those charts. I'm so sorry, please don't click off this video. But this performance goes great. The crowd loves it until a little girl, the one who first saw her secret in town, starts a chain reaction of friends, family, and everyone else chanting for her to put back on the wig and not let Hannah die. They all promise to keep her secret safe, aside from that creepy journo who snaps a pic of it, but in a smart play, they got the journo's daughters to fly out, who are massive fans of Hannah, and it would break their hearts if he releases this photo showing Hannah's secret. So he ends up not sending in the proof. But then Travis and Miley kiss, which leads into nothing. He's not in the rest of the series. But it doesn't matter. Hannah is back on stage as Miley, performing for everyone as we head into the credits of the film. Okay, as a film, sure, it's fine. It feels like this little standalone filler side episode of a show, just filmed in a non-sitcom style. So while it has that Hannah Montana charm, nothing here makes a lick of difference, as you'll see when we get into season 4, especially about her learning to grow and being ready to let go of Hannah and just be Miley, only for it to be pressured back on by the same people who support whatever decision she would make coming up in the next season. We finally get this major moment for Miley, only for everyone to be like, hey, that's great or whatever, but don't do that and put back on the wig. You're Hannah. No one cares about this Miley person. At least that's how it it feels a little bit. But aside from that, it's an alright time that has some fun moments, fun music, fun cameos, and just checks all the boxes for a fun time. Yeah, I own the Blu-ray. I'm not a monster. But now to get to the last major part of this monster-sized video, let's take a look at the 4th and final season of Hannah Montana.
Hannah Montana will be right back on Disney Channel. Hey, we're back with Hannah Montana on Disney Channel.
Welcome to the new house. New furniture, new vibes, it's great. Miley and Lily are also heading into senior year, which is exciting, but what's more exciting is Miley's old room from Tennessee was brought over, and there may need to be some changes. We also get some new characters like TJ and Sienna, and we see a bunch of returning school friends, where they all get to come over for a sleepover thanks to Robbie inviting them, as Miley and Lily are still embarrassed by this old room. Also, Lily now works at the pier instead of that sandwich shop. Good for her. I hope it's a better work environment. Once they finally come clean to Robbie about them not really liking the room, learning that they just need to communicate better, a lesson that they've learned many times here in this show, they get to decorate their own room however they want now, and they also get this sleepover canceled. And maybe their new room will not be in the house, but instead will be in the barn right outside of the house. And yeah, that's exactly what they do, as this new room is a lot cooler. It's no Drake and Josh or Hey Arnold room, but it has horse access. Take that as you will. On the first day of school, there's an issue where on the registration, Miley is for some reason not enrolled in the school anymore, and we get a random Ray Liotta cameo as the principal. Rest in peace. Because of Robbie not sending in the enrollment, Miley can't legally enroll until next semester, pissing off Miley, but who cares about all that when Jackson gets asked out by Sienna, who is a supermodel, and this is huge for him. Miley uses desperate measures coming to school as Hannah, pulling the celebrity in school card, getting special treatment of late enrollment, so I guess it pays to be famous. Everyone there starts treating her weird, and she really doesn't like it. You know, we've already done this concept before. So she gives up on that idea, and she just goes back to being sad again. But then, no kidding, Barack Obama comes over knowing Miley's secret and helps get her enrolled. I guess the president from Cory in the House, who we saw in that one crossover episode, either had his term up or lost the election. Stuff that we dealt with before, like Miley feeling like Robbie sacrificed his career and extracurricular activities for Miley's career and his children's life in general, comes back into play. So maybe he does need a girlfriend now, and the nurse at school is looking for love, so Miley starts pushing them together, and it gets him out of the house. And Jackson is also advancing well with his supermodel girlfriend. Wow, season 4 certainly is a season 4. Who knows what'll happen next? Sienna ends up seeing Hannah Montana in the backyard while at the Stewart's residence, questioning Jackson on thinking that Jackson may be cheating on her with Hannah Montana. Gross. But they convince her that she only saw Miley and not Hannah. Miley doesn't want her around here for the privacy, but it's Jackson's one source of happiness in his life, and even threatens that he might tell her Miley's secret. Miley promises that she will be more careful about this, and Hannah won't be seen around the house anymore, and if it does happen, she will expose the secret to her herself. But Lily comes in, ending up thinking that she already told Sienna about the secret, but she didn't, so Miley ends up having to save Jackson's relationship by telling Sienna herself. Jackson in the end left it up to her to make this decision to spill the beans, as Jackson tells Miley that he truly does trust Sienna. It's wholesome, I like it, it's good stuff. You know, it's about time for 2 things. 1, another Christmas themed episode, and of course, 2, more Jake! Oh boy. For Lily though, Oliver is finally coming back from tour, and she is nervous and excited to see him. Oliver ends up catching a photo of Jake though from this movie set, where Jake may be getting close with someone else there. And how do you break this to Miley? Especially since she's so busy preparing for her holiday special. Lily then gaslights Miley into calling Jake to tell him how she's really feeling, hoping that it was more her being angry and not wanting to see him, but it ends up with her pleading for him to come visit and be in the holiday special. And midway through the recording of the holiday special, a kid on set overhears Oliver and Lily mention Jake and cheater in the same sentence, so he confronts them about it in front of Miley, who is now in a bad mood, seeing the truth 2 days late from her friends. And then she ends up attacking Jake dressed as Mrs. Claus. And with no excuse or anything that adds up to a mishap, he admits to really cheating on her. And hopefully the Jake arc has finally come to an end after all this time. Goodbye and good riddance. Oh, so now that Jake's gone, guess who comes back? Yeah, Jesse, the bad boy of the beach town is back. Miley, as Miley, ends up flirting with Jesse instead of being Hannah, which gives her a fresh start with him. And they go on a date together, now which will take Miley away from her daddy-daughter bonding hangout time, and so it's going to be one of those episodes. And of course, when Miley tells him about that, he is hurt by their bonding time seeming like it means nothing to her, and they get into a fight about this. Jesse gets through to Miley about all this when speaking about each other's dads, as his dad is stationed in Afghanistan, and he is lucky to get even 5 minutes with him on a call. So Miley goes home to speak with Robbie, and she shows how much she actually does care about him and how much he means to her, and chooses to go and then spend time with him. Then, thinking about Jesse and his dad, she throws a concert for those in the service with families that aren't as lucky to be together on a daily basis. Miley and Lily make a deal about conquering the things that they're scared of. Miley has to climb a rope in gym, and Lily has to ride a horse. Miley ends up climbing the rope, but in a sleight of sight trickery, thanks to this gizmo, she is lifted up to the top when Lily was distracted, so she cheated to get through that. So now Lily has to ride a horse, and while she does, gets knocked off of it and now is in a wheelchair with a broken leg. Also, after the horse ran off, he was bit by a snake and is sadly looking like he won't get better. It was Miley's horse she's had since she was a little kid, and we get this emotional montage of Miley and the horse that ends with the horse being okay. So, hey show, not cool for playing with my emotions like that. Then it cuts to this picture of Miley and her real life horse that passed away in 2009 that she had throughout her whole life, and now I'm sad again. Rest in peace, Roman. And then Miley really climbs the rope at the end. Hannah is working on her album and has been writing all the songs herself, but 9 is not enough. She needs a 10th track, a bonus track, and it needs to be ready in only a handful of days, putting some intense creative pressure on her, giving her writer's block and not being able to write the song no matter how hard she tries. But on the pier, she hears this certain beat that gives her new inspiration for a new style of song. She was going full 8 Mile on this episode, coming up with what the song would be with the lyrics. But the recording manager isn't into her new sound, fearing that Hannah Montana's audience isn't ready for this new sound. Kind of like how Disney may have felt about Miley branching off with her personal music, this whole episode really feels like it explains Miley's IRL changes, so that's kind of meta. But she follows her heart in the end with the song, gets a feature on it with Ayaz, and somehow Rico grows a mustache. Miley is planning on telling Jesse the big secret, and Lily is worried about what college holds for them. When Miley goes to tell Jesse, Jesse's already figured it out, so things go pretty smoothly and they both love each other. Hannah ends up performing on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and Jesse messes up and goes to kiss Hannah when he's supposed to be dating Miley. And since it's on national TV, there's now a new narrative to go by for the public, especially when Jesse is caught in public then with Miley, and Jay Leno is now making fun of Jesse for being a cheater. Everyone now in the public eye views Jesse as public enemy number 1 for breaking Hannah Montana's heart, but enough of that for a minute, because both of the girls didn't get into Stanford College. But Lily was just lying to make Miley feel better, as Miley really didn't get in. But Miley's determined and she wants to figure out why she didn't get into Stanford. She finds out that she didn't get in because of extracurriculars in her life, specifically not having them thanks to having Hannah as her extracurriculars. Now, at this stage in her life, Hannah Montana is becoming a detriment to all that she wanted in her real life, her regular life. So she uses Hannah to try and help Miley get into Stanford, knowing now that if she were just Hannah, getting into Stanford would be a guarantee. Now with no boyfriend, no college, and no clue what to do, we get a to be continued for part 2. So sorry that rhymed. Jesse comes back after taking some time to think on everything, and he really loves being with Miley over the ridicule that he was receiving for playing 2 women who are the same woman, and Miley has a conversation with Hannah through a mirror, really considering what having this secret is doing to her life and to the people she cares about. So live on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno once again, Miley as Hannah takes off the Hannah wig during her performance on the show, exposing to the world that Hannah Montana this whole time was Miley Stewart. The crowd loses it, but was the world ready for this? I guess we'll find out, because there's still more episodes. Robin Roberts reports on the truth of Hannah Montana being Miley, recapping Hannah's career and the girl who the whole time was behind, or should I say under, the wig. This plays out more like a regular interview that intersplices in clips from the show throughout the years. Yeah, it's a clip show with some fun interview segments, and I must say that while there is truth to what Miley is saying in this interview that pertain to the real Miley in real life, the acting here does come off pretty authentic in her responses. It's a fun format to have done a clip show in, especially after the big reveal. This episode is all about dealing with the repercussions of revealing the secret. Dolly comes back in a helicopter to save Miley from all these paparazzi that swarm her. Parents are upset that she lied this whole time and that children are now let down. Rico just is broken, I guess. Miley ends up spending a week not leaving the house because of this, but Robbie goes out to perform on TV with Dolly to show Miley that you can't live by fear, as he gets back into his career that he left behind. Miley then gets the confidence to get out of the house house and be herself no matter what, getting on that stage with Dolly and performing as Miley, a necessary episode for Hannah to deal with the criticisms of changing to be herself. It's graduation, and Mama is back and just wants some regular time with her family and with Miley, but the fans and interviews and all of that stuff are really dragging things down since Miley is giving them all the attention and not Mama, who just misses her. So now they have a nice talk, they hug it all out and make sure to always spend time together. That's meaningful. It's sweet, it's simple, and that's really it. And here we are, the final episode of the entire series. We have looked through the whole show that has now led up to this very important ending, where now she has a choice to decide her path going forward. Start going the stardom route or go to college. Things get harder when Steven Spielberg calls with a movie role for Miley co-starring Tom Cruise. Miley really wants to take that movie offer, but Lily is happy that she is still committed to going to college with her and not abandoning her. They end up going to Stanford and dorming together, but things get annoying as people like Amber and Ashley are constantly pestering them, and the only way for Lily to live in peace there is for Miley to go and take a year off of school or something to do a movie or whatever. But Lily knows that she's lying because she's acting weird about this. So Miley breaks the news to Lily about choosing to do the movie instead of going to college, and Lily understands how important this is because it's such a big break for her, but is mad about this because Miley still thinks that she has to go about this in some trick-filled way rather than just being upfront and honest with her, now resulting in a massive fight. But it's okay, this wasn't the last episode. It's another part 2. I got you again. Look how silly you look right now. In the end, the actual final episode to end off the series as a whole, after the fighting continues all the way back home, they finally make up as Miley invites her to come along to Paris, but knows how important school is to her. But after all of that, she says yes to going with Miley to Paris. Then we get a really nice scene between Jackson and Rico, where Jackson feels bad about himself and Rico makes a selfless call to fire Jackson so he can find happiness with a real job that Rico actually gets for him so he can feel like he's doing something more in life, feeling like he's growing like his significant other is. Rico even calls Jackson his best friend, and while we didn't dig into all of their moments throughout the series here in this video, the smaller B-plots, while not being super important to Hannah or her journey, they always offered some really fun frenemies vibes that deserve this massive payoff here in the end. Before Lily and Miley head to Paris, Oliver shows up at the airport to say goodbye, and so does Jesse to see Miley. Oliver gets Lily into accidentally thinking, what if this isn't just a year off school for the trip? What if she gets booked for another movie and another? And at what point is college going to be the option and the right time for both of them, or even just Lily? Before they board, Lily is in tears and doesn't end up going on the trip, letting Miley go live her dream while she goes back to college to live hers. They hug, wave to each other, and go their separate directions in life. But back at Stanford, Lily gets a knock on the door, and surprise, surprise, it's Miley, as she chooses college and her best friend first and foremost. And that's the end of Hannah Montana, the final moments of Miley choosing and discovering her own happiness over everything, how strong her relationship with Lily is, how strong her bond with her father is, and how strong her self-love is. I think season 4, while being the shortest season, clearly had a stronger vision for the episodes. They felt more personal, more connected, and were building up to a grand finale.
Hannah definitely has the best of both worlds. And a cool dad.
New boy crushes? Whoa, stop the presses! Catch the drama of Hannah Montana.
Hannah Montana may not be my favorite show or my favorite Disney live action show, but it was a massive moment that I fondly remember and had a fair amount of enjoyment even all these years later rewatching it. Despite how cheesy the acting can be, how repetitive the stories, fights, and situations sometimes are, Hannah Montana starts off really strong, bursting onto the scene, and ends on such a high note of growth for the series and the characters. Every episode title was a play on a famous song, and it was sure a fun journey overall. And now, my thoughts in general with the show is that Hannah Montana is a major part of the success Disney saw in the mid-2000s, in every direction. While the show follows a format in the sitcom style that doesn't push or innovate the space, it really did a good job utilizing an interesting concept as much as it could. Mixing in the music side of things with the standalone albums and the real-life tours, it was a winning formula. This show feels so much more connected to the fans with how concert footage from real Hannah Montana concerts would be integrated into moments in the show. It felt like Hannah was a big character both on the screen and in real life. This illusion brought us relatable moments through an icon that struggles with everyday situations living her regular life, showing a whole generation of fans that this character is just like them, and that they themselves can follow their dreams. But this celebrity world isn't all that it seems sometimes. While the direct message in the show isn't, hey, Hollywood, the music industry, and entertainment media in general are bad, the show rarely paints these moments in a great light. Whether for comedy or to show some behind the scenes of the industry, it's usually pretty grimy. When we do get to see it in its glory, it's through how Hannah experiences the highs, but we don't shy away from the lows either. And in that respect, it felt very balanced. At the end of the day, the most important character in the show, called Hannah Montana, was Miley Stewart. Some lessons and plots would be recycled, maybe giving us a clue as to why the 65 rule sometimes can really make sense. But at 100 episodes, we were bound to find many similarities between some of them. Heck, even some lessons that would be learned back to back were the same lesson, just with different plot point dressing. Regardless, it was still a salad when it was served. The episodes in the show that really are great truly stand out as memorable, not just for nostalgia's sake, but for the content itself being well written, well thought out, and well executed. But not everything is or was as good as it felt in the home stretch. What we see in front of the screen may not have been what happened behind it. It truly may not have been the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Miley's time with Disney was not as fun as it may have seemed when it came to the show itself, where being the main star of the show seemed great. But the reality of her time working on the show consisted of her being overworked on set, usually having 12-hour workdays to shoot the show and then go and produce the music for it, struggling through her teenage years feeling more controlled and managed over having any sort of normalcy in life, where we can now see some of the real parallels to the show itself. Between her and her co-stars, things were also a bit awkward more than anything. While Miley being paid the least amount while having the most work to do, as well as her direct co-stars like Emily and Mitchell having a closer relationship than she had to them, where she felt outcasted as the best friend relationship on screen didn't translate to one off screen, constantly feeling pushed away as these two would have disagreements or moments that would result in a massive argument, on one case ending up in both actresses' families getting involved to stop it. And this lasted for about 2 seasons before finally working things out, where their relationship would turn friendly in the 3rd season and beyond. But Emily still got to ad-lib the final words spoken on the show for the series finale, where after Miley says,
I love you so much,
she replies, I know! Aside from all of the music issues we discussed earlier, the character of Hannah Montana was an identity she was struggling with, starting to write more about it within her music and to the other stuff she wanted to do, like a photo with Vanity Fair that would cause some controversy with Miley and her family claiming it to be artistic while the powers that be disagreed, forcing an apology for this happening. Remember, Disney is not playing around when it comes to any star being in the tabloids. Even more personal life photos that wouldn't even be released by Miley released that showed her spending some time with her boyfriend, to which Disney, this seemed like a red flag for the image they want for their character of Hannah Montana. With her Miley music getting more and more recognition as she starts pushing away from the character, she would end up fully embracing Miley as the tour, which turned out to be extremely successful and proving that it's not the Disney magic bringing her this admiration, but the same reason they hired her in the first place, her talent, bouncing between filming the show and touring, all while still being a teenager. It was all a lot to deal with, and with her rising success away from the character, what would still being Hannah Montana bring to her life that she isn't already finding on her own? Her music started to become slightly edgier, both in name and in music videos, cracking the veil of that Hannah Montana disguise Disney was so hard at work trying to keep. Now, whether this was because there were some other things at play here from the companies involved, or this truly was fans being upset at Hannah Montana not really being a thing outside of the show anymore, but after Miley started being more public about being done with the character, as her new standalone album Can't Be Tamed was coming out, with the next season of the show already have been shot, the album didn't do all that well, giving Miley a lot to think about here. Things were going to have to get drastic if Miley truly wanted away from this Disney look and life for her to be happy and truly find who she is. But as she turned 18, evidence of her ripping a fat one with some friends was released online, which would crack crack this Disney veil to a point of nearly no return, which is crazy to think about how if this happened today, which this all isn't even that long away from, this truly would have been nothing. But brand deals were broken, companies were angry, and Miley was treated as a degenerate for it. When she would finally be free of working with Disney in 2011 post the show being completely finished, aside from the rerun market playing one of their biggest shows constantly, how do you fully separate yourself from what people always associate you with? What drastic level of owning your own brand, your own identity, would it take to fully shatter the veil once and for all that Disney would still have with the character of Hannah Montana? Well, you make the loudest statement you can. Miley would end up cutting her hair to the infamous short blonde look, dropping new music along with the music video for stuff like Wrecking Ball and We Can't Stop, and on top of all of that, have one of the most infamously memorable VMA performances with Robin Thicke the world has ever seen. Not just because it was more risque and out there, but it was Miley Cyrus, or as so many still associated her as, Hannah Montana. While many people would end up criticizing her for this performance and take some incredibly vile shots at her for her change in appearance, attitude, and sound, Miley took this all in stride. This was just the thing that she needed to really cause the final crack, as bit by bit the veil of Hannah Montana was falling, while the building up of Miley Cyrus was just starting. This era in her career was pivotal in getting the attention it needed, really demanding you to see her as Miley and no longer as Hannah Montana. Disney was done with her as well, washing their hands from the Hannah Montana era, as they would have plenty of other things in the works to already try and replace it. Miley would go on to build the success from her new look, her new music, and her new attitude, to build up a fan base that sees her for her. When you think of Miley Cyrus, no longer is your first and only thought Hannah Montana, but just her in general, with Hannah Montana being one of the things that she had done in her career, but that wasn't her whole career. It didn't define her career. This time of everyone having something to say about her was surely a lot to handle. The stress from Hannah Montana and everything even hurt things behind the scenes with the family, as Billy Ray even made note that this show was destroying his family, even wishing that it had never happened, as to still have some semblance of family being okay overall, rather than all being involved in the industry, especially with what they went through. But what these major statements from Miley would prove, helping her shift away from her Hannah Montana image, was that it was necessary to get to where she is now. Her music, her attitude, who she is, would constantly evolve and change beyond these moments, as now, all on her own, without Disney, has gone on to become the massive artist that she is. But in saying all this, as I was finishing up working on this video, it was announced that, I guess today that this video is releasing, not only is the newest Miley Cyrus album dropping, but a brand new Miley Cyrus special would be premiering on Disney Plus nonetheless, with their ominous tweet saying, "Welcome home," reuniting Miley with Disney proper, where she's bigger than she ever was as just Hannah Montana. And Disney, of course, still wants a piece of that pie that her talent has earned. So in the end, I guess it was a happy ending. Miley was able to pave her way into superstardom with a hit show remembered fondly by so many, and a music career all of her own that has made her one of the most famous names in entertainment today. And also, in 2009, I did see Miley in concert during her Wonder World tour, and it was pretty dope. She rode a motorcycle above the audience, and her brother's band Metro Station was the opening act, and Trace at one point tosses his guitar across the stage to a handler who simultaneously tosses him one back to catch, and it was just really cool. But you know what else is really cool? You are. Thanks so much for watching this video. I would love to know your thoughts on Hannah Montana, your favorite moments, songs, etc. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you soon. Later.